Good morning, Co-op member owners, and welcome to this year's online event for our 2025 AGM taking place here at Co-op Live in Manchester. My name's Ivan, and I sit on the Co-op Young Members Group in the National Members Council, and I'm delighted to be joined here today by Jackson Mills, a Regional Operation Manager for your Co-op.
Thank you very much, Ivan. And yes, welcome to Co-op's AGM 2025, where we are celebrating the past 12 months of the Co-op here in Co-op Live Manchester. A lot of Co-ops in that first sentence, but that's to be expected because we are at the Co-op AGM. Now, I must tell you, you at home are going to get the opportunity to get involved today, get involved in the discussion, think of questions that you want to ask to help shape our Co-op later on. We also want to thank everyone who has voted in our elections this year for your representatives and for key issues that matter to you that you want the Co-op to tackle. And also, you can find out who's been elected to the council online on our website, and stay tuned for later on, you'll find out more results. Ivan.
The AGM Marketplace here in Manchester has already opened, but we wanted to bring for you online a series of exclusive conversations with colleagues from across our business. The chat is open for all of those of you who want to introduce yourselves and to share any thoughts and comments that you might have on the proceedings for the day. Now, the question that we'll be asking everyone today is, what is your favourite Co-op product? And I'll have to begin by saying that mine has to be the sea salt and Chardonnay vinegar crisps. Jackson, what about you?
Now, we only just found out 10 minutes ago we were going to say the same product. So I love those crisps, and my goodness, when you take that first bite in the, from the packet, it's just an explosion in your mouth for your taste buds. Not a literal explosion. But I would also point out my favourite product is the Irresistible pizzas. They are absolutely delicious.
Couldn't agree more. Well, thank you, Jackson. Now, grab a brew, take a seat and get comfy for our first interview of the day. First up, we're joined by David Knight. David Knight is our project lead for the International Cooperative Alliance's General Assembly taking place here in Manchester this July. David, thank you so much for joining us this morning. To start off with, do you mind telling us a little bit more about what the United Nations Year of Cooperatives means for member owners?
Of course. So the United Nations declares international years all the time. And they do it to raise awareness of major issues going on internationally. So this year is the International Year of Cooperatives, which is a fantastic opportunity for us to showcase the amazing difference that co-ops around the world are making in communities. The theme that they've got for this year's international year is that co-ops build a better world, and of course I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir where we're all kind of signed up to that and know that. But the evidence, the increasing evidence of the incredible positive impact that cooperatives are making around the world. And so the United Nations wants to highlight that and wants to showcase that and wants to show that cooperatives is a real alternative way to doing business, and is a real effective way of delivering social and economic development in whatever country in which they operate. So it's an exciting year. It's an exciting year, not just because the United Nations declared the International Year, but I think for us it was a bit of a perfect storm as well, because we went into the year with, of course, celebrating the 180 years of the Rochdale Pioneers, of that sort of establishment, which was great. So we saw that in December. Yeah. And of course, with the Labour government coming into power, and in their manifesto having a commitment to, they recognise the impact that co-ops like ours are making to communities, and they have a commitment in their manifesto to double that movement, not just for cooperatives, but for other sort of similar businesses like social enterprises and things like that. So we've got some real kind of political momentum behind us as well. So it's kind of like a perfect storm of things that have come together. So it is a real exciting year to really shout about what we do, what we are, and how we are different.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I think on an individual level it's great that we have the chance to really showcase some of the amazing things that the cooperative movement does, and I really do hope that many young people in particular really do get involved with the movement as a result. Now, do you mind just telling a little bit more about how our co-op has been celebrating the International Year so far? Yeah,
absolutely. So I guess it's important to note that when you have an international year and you create a moment, you create an illusion like, this is the first time that we're doing it. But the brilliant thing about co-ops is that co-ops are making this positive difference day in, day out, every day, just like our co-op. And so the year is just a moment, I guess, for us to really talk, in some ways, to carry on business as usual, continue on doing that amazing things that we do, that way of doing business that we do, helping our sort of local communities, tackling those issues that our members have asked us to. So it's not necessarily about reinventing the wheel and creating some new things. It's about showcasing what we're already doing. But so there is some great things coming up. I mean, already this year, along with our other sort of retail co-ops in the UK and Co-ops UK, we established that new fund for international cooperative development, which was an absolute fantastic fund that's really going to support cooperatives around the country to kind of rebuild communities, kind of following crisis, which is really, really good. Earlier on this year so far, we've been engaging our members through things like join-in opportunities and creating those opportunities for them to learn more about our co-op, what it is to be a co-op, how co-ops make a difference. And we've had some great engagement from them, from our members, and those kind of conversations and creating them, which is great. And as we go into the summer, there's a fantastic summer program of things that we are going to be doing, which I'm sure will be talked about in more detail later on. But things like look out for things like the Big Lunch, Great Big Green Week is coming up as well, where we'll be bringing our members and communities together locally to make a difference and make an impact. And also, of course, I guess, as you introduced me, the big thing that's on my mind, which we're 6 weeks out from, is we are hosting this year's International Cooperative Alliance's General Assembly here in Manchester. So that will bring in the region of about 600 cooperators from across the world into Manchester to celebrate the International Year. So that's really, really exciting, and that's a really great opportunity, again, for us to sort of showcase our co-op, but also the broader co-op movement of which we're a part here in the UK. So really exciting moment. I say exciting, I'm obviously it's 6 weeks out.
We can tell you're
and lots to do, but it will be a really exciting moment to just showcase, actually, this is an international movement that is really making a positive difference.
Yeah, and thank you for that, David, and I share your enthusiasm. I'm really looking forward to that fantastic week that we've got lined up for us in July. Now, just to conclude, what happens to be your favourite co-op product?
Oh, favourite co-op product? I think I'd have to go for the Co-op Irresistible Sauvignon Blanc white wine from South Africa. Always a go-to white wine. Absolutely love it.
Oh, fantastic. And I'm sure, given the fantastic weather we've had this week, I'm sure many of our member owners have been enjoying a little bit of that this week. But David, thank you so much for that. And members online, please do keep a lookout in store and in your inboxes for further opportunities on how to learn and engage with our co-op throughout the rest of this year. So David, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us, David. Now, next we have Anne Byrom, who is joining us. Anne, would you like to take a seat? We really appreciate you joining us, because I know this has been a little last minute.
Last minute, yes.
With us
But it's always nice to talk.
literally 10 minutes ago, so we really appreciate it. And Anne is the Head of Membership Propositions and Performance at the Co-op. Now, Anne, I know you immerse yourself with all things membership. Can you tell us about membership, please?
There's so much that I could tell you about membership. We've been doing lots and lots of work at the moment to try and make sure that all the elements of membership are connected. So to make it really easy for our members to connect with the economic side of membership and the social side and the ownership side of membership. So we've been doing lots of work to think about how we bring those together in one proposition. We've also been doing lots of work with young members to understand how the proposition performs for them. Does it meet their needs? Is there something else that we can do within the proposition to make it even more appealing? So we've been working with the Co-op Young Members Group. We've been working with young members in universities. We've been talking to people through Join In, so young people and the parents and grandparents of young people, and of course our colleagues, to think about how do we bring that proposition to life a little bit more for young people. So far, the spend threshold has been brought down to make it easier for young people to take part in voting. But there's lots more to come. And we're here today with a stand asking our members here today if they've got any thoughts and opinions on young membership. So that's something else that we've been doing.
Which is brilliant to hear. And I know our membership is growing in terms of more people are joining the co-op. What are we doing to engage people more to, become members in the co-op?
There's lots of activity. We now have over 6.5 million members, so it's growing and growing at strength. And we are recruiting a lot of people through our co-op app. So within the app, there's loads of ways to benefit economically. So
I'm always winning on that.
are you?
Yes,
You're winning on
I'm always
member
getting
games?
some sort of coupon. You know, I'm always getting money off.
Excellent. Yes, lots of people are taking part in member games. There's a game every month,
Yeah.
so that's really helpful to drive people back to the app on a regular basis. But also we've got personalised offers within the app.
Yes.
So you, as a member, can choose 2 offers every week, and they're on the things that you already buy. So they're just helpful to make sure that our members are getting the best value.
Absolutely. And is there anything else that you want to share with us today in terms of how people can maybe get involved more with membership?
I think one other thing that is great for members is a new thing called member prizes. I don't know whether you've seen member prizes in store.
Absolutely,
But
yes.
we've been working with third-party providers and our suppliers to bring money can't buy prizes for our members. So that might be things like VIP Wimbledon experiences, or it might be going to breweries and seeing products being made,
Yeah.
all sorts of different things, or even tickets for Co-op Live and our festivals. So yeah, lots of opportunities there.
Marvellous. And then lastly, what is your favourite co-op product?
Well, I'm vegan, so I love everything from the Grow range.
Wonderful.
And particularly the Grow coleslaw.
Oh,
I really like the coleslaw, especially on a sandwich. Yeah.
gorgeous. Well, look, thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem.
We really
Thank you very much.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you for having me.
Thank you.
Yes. Now, who have we got next,
Next
Ivan?
up is Serena Smallman. Please, Serena, join us here on the sofa. So Serena is from our member and cooperative engagement team. So morning, Serena, thank you for joining us. I'm sure that we're all hoping that the fantastic weather we've seen this week stays with us for that little bit longer. And I know that you've got some really exciting partnerships planned for the summer in the hope that we can get communities outside and celebrating together in the spirit of cooperation. Do you mind just telling me a little bit more about some of those opportunities?
Yeah, thank you. No, I really hope it keeps nice and warm. Top up those tans.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, so as David just spoke about, it is the United Nations International Year of Cooperatives. And we've already been doing, from the start of the year, so much work around giving our members the opportunity to learn about what a cooperative means through great quizzes, great videos, etc. And we've also done lots of activations already through our Time to Talk Day that happened in February, and all the great work our colleagues are also doing to help with fundraising for Bernardo's, which we've got over 4.5 million at the moment. So we've already been doing loads, but this summer we've got even more great stuff that shows that when we come together and build communities, it really helps to make that real difference. So one of the big things I want to talk about is the big lunch. So we've partnered with the Big Lunch. For 3 years, and that is going to be from the 7th to the 8th of June, and it's about getting communities to connect together over food, over conversations, and really show that when we come together, that difference we can make. And it's simple, and we're working really close with all our members, giving them the opportunities, great engagement packs with like cake stands, bunting, lots of amazing games so they can really engage, conversation starters, just to get people really together to build that better world. And if members want to go out and do something, then they can. We've still got the opportunity to go and download the packs online, and they just need to go to coop.co.uk, get involved, and they'll be able to get a pack for the Big Green Week, not Big Green, Big Lunch. So the next thing I want to talk about is how we know our members back in 2021 told us that they really care about climate, and so did our great climate justice campaign, which is still ongoing, and obviously through that we work with our partners such as Great Big Green Week, and that is another great initiative that's going on. So that's going to be happening from the 7th to the 15th of June. And that's going to be where we're really engaging and getting our members really involved and just taking simple swaps to make a difference. So for me, I won't be driving to school I'll be walking the kids to school. That's a simple swap. On my big lunch, I'm going to be making cookies. Instead of just using normal chocolate, I'm going to be using fair trade chocolate. And our member activators, and if you don't know who a member activator is our member activators are actually our colleagues that sole purpose is to be in the community, to engage with our members and to get them meeting locally and get engaged. And they're going to be doing over 100 events, inviting local communities together, our members, to go and learn about what simple swaps they can do. So again, visit our website and see where those events are, but we really encourage you to get involved within Great Big Green Week. And if you really want to, we're also inviting all our members to go down to London on the 9th of July to the Mass Lobby, where we're going to be encouraging all member MPs to start taking action. And a simple way of doing that, if you can't go to London, again, go to our Get Involved page, but there's a letter there that you can write to your MP and go, right, I want to take action, I need you to take action because we need to care about this world. And goes back to that international theme, when we come together, we make that real difference. So there are two things that are coming up. There's also Co-op's Fortnight. There's loads of other stuff that's going to be happening. Please just watch this space, keep looking at our Get Involved page, our Join In, and see all the ways that our members can get involved to participate and make that real difference in our communities nationally and locally.
Fantastic. And just sort of looking back on the last year, we've had a really successful year. Do you mind just telling me some about, some of the things that we've done over the last year, to make sure that members are having their say throughout the year and are getting involved in whatever way they can?
Yeah, so members obviously can have their say constantly through our Join In programme, which is amazing. And that can be anything from today at the AGM, picking our leaders, all the way to pizza toppings or products that they really want to get involved with. I think one of the best things is the highlight for me is always community celebration that happens in November, and that's when we really celebrate the power of our members choosing a local cause. So if you've not chosen your local cause, choose your local cause.
Yes.
Because if you've chosen your local cause, then that local cause gets a dedicated part of money, gets a share of a part of money that then gets able to then give that tools, resources, giving you kind of football kits or kind of sessions for well-being. So it really helps, and I think that is a really great moment for me, celebration, when I see all our communities coming together, our members, our colleagues, celebrating the difference we make. So I'm really excited again for celebration, and also just all the great stuff that's going on constantly, and our member activators out there doing great stuff, getting our local communities together and members together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's fantastic, and I can sort of say from my own experience, my local member activator has been fantastic, making sure that members really have the chance to engage with all these opportunities. So, Serena, thank you so much, and the big lunch sounds really quite exciting. I'm very much looking forward to that.
And I hope you're going to do one, organise one now.
Oh, the pressure's on, we have to.
Watch this space.
Yeah. Lastly, what is your favourite Co-op product, and will it be going into that picnic basket of yours?
Oh, it's always got to be Chardonnay salt and vinegar
I said
crisps.
Exactly the same thing. I feel like everyone
They're
says the same thing.
addictive. Like, you can't even have one. You end up having the whole family pack to yourself.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's happened a few times in the car on the way home.
I saw them being sampled in the marketplace, so I might go and have a sample.
Or we'll have to grab some.
Yeah. Well, Serena, thank you so much
thank
for that.
you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And everyone get involved this summer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it my part now? I think it might be mine. So next we have Paul Gerard. Paul, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us.
Morning.
Now, I'm sure you recognise Paul. Paul is our Director of Public Affairs, Campaigns and Policy for the Co-op. Now, campaigning for public policy change has been a core identity to the Co-op since the beginning, and voting on motions at our AGM plays a big role in terms of what we do and how we do it. Now, there are 4 key campaigns that Co-op's really focusing on currently, and thousands of members have been getting involved. And they are social mobility, safer colleagues, safer communities, climate justice, and our most recent campaign, peace and cooperation. Now, Paul, could you, if we go back to 2024, can you talk to us about any highlights from a campaign perspective?
Yeah, I can. And morning, Jackson. Morning, Ivan. I can. There's quite a lot to choose from.
I can imagine. Yes, there is.
And we've got an AGM to do at some point, so I'm going to be brief. I guess one for each of the 3 campaigns we had last year, I will mention. I'll start with social mobility. We launched in, I think, November time, some research that we've done with Demos called the opportunity effect, and that essentially said that if businesses took social mobility seriously, it would add, from memory, about £18 billion to UK GDP.
Wow.
And it's a great insight. But I remember the event that we launched it at. Shireen launched it for us. We had a huge collection of people really passionate about social mobility. We had the DWP Minister Alison McGovern there, and it was a wonderful example of two things. A, the co-op leading the debate, and that research has been quoted and quoted and quoted since that point. So A, we're leading the conversation, but B, we bring together. It's not just us, it's a group of people that we bring together. People who are interested. You had the Sutton Trust there, you had organisations that work with ex-offenders. It was a great example, I thought, of how we do it. We get research and we lead the conversation and we bring people with us. So that's one highlight. Last summer was Big Green Week. We'll do it again this year, be even bigger this year. But last year was brilliant because throughout the year, actually, our climate justice campaign really engaged members. We had tens and tens of thousands of members engaging with that campaign, and it starts with, what can I do? Because if I start to do things, then suddenly I'm going to ask my business to do things, I'm going to ask government to do things. And it was a great example of agency that we all have. And the climate justice campaign is about agency that we have to make a change. And then I'll end highlight of last year, which is Safer Colleagues, Safer Communities.
Yes.
This has been 7 years in the making. It started with our National Members Council saying this is an issue. It was endorsed by our AGM 7 years ago. When we started campaigning on retail crime and shopkeeper violence, no one talked about it. No one talked about it. And this year, at the when the new government announced its King's Speech, it said it is going to legislate, and actually I gave evidence to the Commons Public Bill Committee on a standalone offence. And when the Home Secretary stood up to announce that, she referenced, thanks to the work of the Co-op and Usdaw, I think the Co-op Group and Usdaw have absolutely got that over the line. Yes, we brought lots of retailers with us. Yes, we've really created a movement around it. But I think everyone, including the Home Secretary, right up to the Prime Minister, would recognise that it's been the Co-op working with Usdaw, great partnership, that's really done. And I'm enormously proud because that happened because tens of thousands of members signed petitions, wrote to their MP, colleagues hosted, you've done it, Jackson, I know, hosted MPs to say this is the reality. It became not a particular issue, cross-party, shop workers are important, shops are important, we protect them. And so that legislation is in the Crime and Policing Bill. It will become law later this year, and that's down to our members.
Incredible. And Paul, I can't tell you, as a Co-op colleague, as a Co-op colleague, how proud I am that we have done that campaign around colleague safety. You know, I'm in stores every single week down in London, where my patch is, and colleagues are really grateful for the internal work that we're doing in terms of that investment in secure kiosks, secure risers, intelligent CCTV, special types of guarding that can take people on and call the police. And then the external stuff in terms of the lobbying of the government and changing legislation. And it is one of my key highlights over the past several years in terms of just being proud for working for the Co-op. I can't say it enough. It really is incredible. Now, we know our members like to get involved, and we sometimes have call to actions. Are there any potential call to actions coming up?
Oh, yes. Yes, there are. I'll start with the Climate Justice campaign. This summer will be the mass lobby in Parliament, and it'll be close to Big Green Week, and there'll be real opportunities for members to get involved. Because the thing about a Co-op campaign, the things that set apart our campaigns and make them so powerful, is it's not just me talking about it, and I do, as people know I talk about these things a lot, but actually it's because members. So whenever I talk to politicians or ministers or whoever it may be, they'll say, why are the Co-op doing this? And I'll say, because our members have told us. We have 6.5 million members, and our members are doing this. And they see it because members, as you say, that call to action. So Big Green Week, the mass lobby on climate justice, watch out for that. There'll be plenty of information coming out in the next week or so about that, really important. The other one is our Peace and Cooperation campaign that you mentioned earlier, Jackson. That's a new campaign, it's only been going on a couple of months. And that's fundamentally, it says, you look around the world and it's on fire, there's conflict, there's division, there's people being terrorised or killed. And that's not just overseas. I'm a hugely proud Mancunian. Last summer we saw some of the most vulnerable people in society who were, refugees being attacked. It happens in this country as well. But we know cooperation builds peace. Has done for decades. You only have to look at what happened in Rwanda, in Guatemala, and it builds peace. And I think we need to make sure that cooperation is at the service of those who, in conflict zones, who need that support. So that's why that campaign is so important. I'm really passionate about that campaign. We've already asked members to write to their MP to say, get the government to put cooperation at the heart of how it funds overseas development.
Yes.
We've had thousands of members have done that already. We've had questions asked in the House of Commons. I was with members of Parliament this week. They'd all had letters. They all knew about it. That's great. We're about to launch a petition. Get enough people to sign that petition. The government have got to respond. Enough people sign it beyond that. We get a debate. That campaign's getting real traction. So there's calls to actions quite specifically. Have a look for peace and cooperation. You've not written to your MP, write to your MP. There's a link that you'll have seen in member emails. It's online. Write to your MP. Sign that petition when we launch it. And then have a look for the mass lobby, because it's about agency. And I've got agency because I'm an individual. You have Jackson, you have I. Suddenly the three of us, it's a bigger voice. It's bigger than just three. And suddenly, if we get tens of thousands, as we did for retail crime, we got literally tens and tens of thousands of members wrote to their MP, signed a petition. That's what gets change.
Yeah. And that is the Co-op difference. You know,
Absolutely.
What we do around this is just incredible. And as you said, when we all wrote to our MPs around safer colleagues, safer communities, and what retail workers are going through, that made a difference. And that is
Absolutely.
defining what the Co-op difference is. It is incredible. And Paul, I could listen to you all day. But finally,
yes.
And just as importantly, what is your favourite Co-op product?
So I would say it's the gelato. There's a salted caramel gelato, I think. That's amazing. The problem with it is one of them where you start and you're watching something or you're chatting away and suddenly there's none left. You think,
It's like the crisps.
yeah. So I'd go for that. Particularly, we're going to have a great summer. There's going to be plenty of that.
Marvellous. Paul, thank you so much for
Absolute
joining
pleasure.
us. Thank
Absolute
you
pleasure.
very much. Now,
Good to see you.
nice to see
Thank
you.
you.
Yes, we have now got Adrian, but now you've heard from Paul, and have a think about now in terms of campaigns, hearing off Paul, what you would want to get involved in, and if you've got any ideas or anything you want to discuss later, you will have that opportunity online on our chat. Now, Adrian, please do come and take a seat. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Adrian Bloomfield from our pricing team, and I hear you're going to do a bit of myth busting with us, so thank you for that. Now, I'm sure our members have heard of this pricing campaign, and if you haven't, you may have been living under a rock. And it's my favourite pricing campaign we have done, I think ever, and I've worked for Co-op for the past 10 years, and that is Aldi Price Match. Can't talk highly enough about it. Can you just tell our viewers at home why we decided to do that campaign?
Yeah, and I think it's important to note it's not just another pricing campaign. This is an evolution from where we've been, where we looked at ourselves about 2 years ago, and we decided to be a bit bold. We knew that price was a bit of our Achilles heel, and we needed to change that perception, and we needed to do it in a brash and big way. So we created member prices. That was a campaign, that was a no-nonsense, no gimmick, straightforward. If you're a member, you are going to save money on everyday products that you're putting into your baskets. So that's been running for just over 18 months, and the results have been nothing short of fantastic. So fundamentally, we're growing more members, and those members, they are putting more items in their basket, and they're coming to our stores more frequently. So overall, it's achieving everything that we need it to do. So it's quite simple, really. If you put in amazing value into everyday products, that's milk, bread, eggs, fresh fruit and veg, people resonate with that, and they'll buy into it. In fact, we've now got 1 million members every week putting at least one of those products into their baskets and taking it away. So, yeah, we're very pleased with that. But we had to ask ourselves, how do we take this up a notch? How do we go better? And that's when we obviously started looking at the Aldi Price Match campaign. Within that, you can say that we're not going to win any awards on innovation. I think it's fair to say Aldi Price Match as a message has been in the market for a number of years now. And that's the key point about it. It resonates with a customer base up and down the country, and it's one that we can really lean into. being open and honest with you guys, we didn't actually have to change the dial of our price point that much. We were actually in a really good price position, but just that tweak of that message, relaying back into a price match that everybody knew where value was sat, we can lean into that, and we've seen some fantastic results. So what's changed within the actual campaign itself? We've added more products. So we listened to our members, we've added more dairy, you'll see yogurts and cheeses and butter into that now. We've got more covered fillers as well, so we've got soups, rice and noodles, and we're expecting people to do a lot more cooking, so we've even thrown in some washing up liquid as well. So
perfect.
And then, I mean, within that now, so we're now looking at an array of products of 105 products, own brand products that Co-op is very heart of the value of every single one of those products. And the cherry on top of that is nearly 80% of those products are now fitting within our healthy and sustainable diets and way of life as well. So you're saving money on great food that is great for our bodies as well. Obviously, you guys were in store when it launched. I think it's fair to say, as you're saying, that the theatre was amazing. Marketing had absolutely smashed all they needed to achieve with that. But talking to store staff like yourself and other store members that I spoke to, there was so much energy, there was so much passion, there was so much engagement. So it's fantastic to see that we're finally doing a campaign that everyone can be really proud of. And obviously that resonates with the customer as well, right? And that week alone, I think we saw our membership growth double from the usual sign up from a base week. A little bit of help with Lady Gaga, but we'll make sure that the campaign takes a little bit more credit. I'm still trying to get those tickets. But we're not stopping there, right? We've committed to another £170 million into price over the next couple of years across our channels, so in store, online, QuickCom. Doesn't matter how you shop with your Co-op, if you're a member, you're going to see great prices on your everyday products, and we'll keep that going.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Adrian. And yeah, on the day of launch, I was in stores across London and it looked fantastic. The marketing was brilliant. Colleagues had a real buzz with the marketing, and it really does speak to customers. It's a simple message and it's a real value message that we can do. Now, I'm going to ask a bit of a question that you probably wouldn't expect me to ask, and that is, with Audi Price Match and with our membership prices as well, is the Co-op actually expensive?
I actually smile because I get asked that a lot, and I actually know the numbers behind it all. So look, and I get it. I grew up in a town where we had a Co-op on the high street. The perception from my parents was it's slightly pricey, and you grow up with that as well when you kind of perhaps dodge the street to go save a couple of pence on your tin of beans elsewhere. But in my job now as a pricing manager, I get to see how we check pricing. I check the market every day to understand where we're positioned. And the thing I love about my job now is I get to hold the business accountable to when we need to deliver on those price and those value promises that we set out. But of course, value comes in different forms, right? Price is just one part of the formula. There's plenty of other aspects that people expect from Co-op. They want quality, they want fair trade sourcing, and they want British grown goods. So I'm doing a bit of myth. So I'll help give you a myth bust. You're a myth bust.
What's in those bags?
So I'll just pull some items out. Obviously, Saturday morning, you guys are missing out on your cooking shows.
Yeah, sadly so. I'm devastated.
This will be more Martin Lewis, I think, than James Martin on that. But I've been in charge with cooking this afternoon when I get back. So if the sun's still shining...
Now, can everyone at home see this? Yes, there we are. We've got a camera there. Beautiful.
So I'm going to go home and cook the family a nice grilled chicken salad.
Yes.
So the best thing about this is obviously for me, it's how good I feel when I buy these products. So first off, we've got our chicken, right?
Yeah.
So our chicken, we've obviously put a hell of a lot of great investment into ensuring that we've got chickens that have got space to thrive.
Yeah.
And whilst other retailers are now starting to catch up, we saw Tesco's actually move and complete just a couple of weeks ago, and we can do nothing but salute them, because that's what we want the industry, and as a society we need to move towards. But our grades are still slightly higher, right? We've still got a good environment. We've got natural light, they've got straw beds, they've got pecking blocks and perches. So we're still slightly higher with our grade on that.
Excellent.
And then obviously as well, we're doing that across breaded goods as well, and ready to ready-to-go chicken goods as well, which, again, Aldi and Tesco's haven't quite matched us on that yet. So I'm feeling good when I'm buying my chicken. We can see a number of other products here as well, so my cucumber and my tomatoes, so it will make it up. These are, again, make me feel good because they're UK grown. We're supporting British farmers on there. So that's all in the basket. The best thing about that when I'm going home as well is the fact that I've managed to save £1 versus going to Tesco Express.
Wow.
And they're 80p versus going into their main store estate as well. So I'm saving money and I'm feeling good there. Just a couple of other things I'll pull out as well, because tomorrow I'll be doing my fry up. So as you can imagine, I've got my bacon, I've got my bread, I've got my eggs and my beans. And again, I'm feeling good here because what we've got straight here on the packet as well, we've got British pork. So we're buying into our British farmers that are having a little bit of a ride at the moment, but we're going to support them as much as we can. I'm looking at my equivalent product in Tesco, still EU pork. So again, I'm feeling good, and I definitely feel good after those. I don't know if you tried those, but
absolutely, they're my
they are
favourite.
great beans. But
I do prefer them to another brand that I won't mention.
I was going to say it's great for a taste test if you're looking for something to do on a Saturday afternoon. But again, welfare standards, RSPCA, increasing the standards of our farms there as well, and making sure that the pigs have got outside breeding, they've got straw beds, and other good welfare standards there. One for the kids, as I use for a bit of a snack time at home, is our seedless grapes.
Oh, gorgeous.
And these are top quality. I dare say these are M&S quality, literally at Aldi price points.
Wow.
So I've actually spoken to the grape baroness. He's convinced me that we're at least a couple of grades better than what they're serving.
I think we need to try one after that.
Absolutely, try one of those.
Oh, beautiful.
So,
let's have one of them.
From a quality perspective, we are the best in convenience on that. I'm going to put my money in the mouth
very
there.
Sweet.
So yeah, you can keep those. So we've got quality there.
Put them in my pocket. Thank you.
And I'm more of a fan of the liquidated grape.
Oh.
But why is this important? I mean, this actually, unfortunately, isn't even in the Aldi price match campaign. Not because we couldn't put it in it, but there was literally no other products from Aldi that we could actually match it against.
Because of the quality.
Because of the fair trade stamp on it. So we obviously didn't want to disappoint members. They are still getting a 50p off when they buy that. So it doesn't matter. Yeah, we made that
always helps.
So we're looking at this.
I'll take that as well. Thank you very much.
So, and on top of all that, I also was able to use my my voucher as well, my personalised offer, so I got further discounts. So in totality, this basket I saved £2 versus going to Tesco Express, and over £1 going to Tesco Main Estate.
Well, there you go.
So we're talking about the biggest retailer in the UK, and you're getting much better value for money and value in terms of products.
Yeah.
And I think, when you're looking at what the point of difference is for Co-op, we're working on price, we're working on quality, we're working on welfare, we're working on UK British sourcing goods, and we're really working towards convenience without compromise. And I think that's the biggest difference.
Well, what a great way to answer the question by being able to show us, and thank you very much. I will just put this over. I'm not really a white wine drinker, but I think my mum will like that. Hi, Mum, if you're watching. Lastly, really important question: what is your favourite Co-op product?
So there was a new range of the Dip and Dunk wraps. I don't know if you tried those recently. I think they only launched over the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks. So I've become slightly addicted to the cheeseburger Dip and Dunk.
Okay.
Absolute game changer for your meal deal. So yeah, definitely worth a try.
Wonderful. Well, Adrian, thank you very much for joining us today. And I think now we are going to be joined by Mark.
Mark, it is Mark, yeah.
Mark, are you going to be joining us? Yes. Oh, we're just clearing up here. We'll take those
away.
grapes. Thank you, Adrian. They are very nice. Don't worry about them. I can use them later on.
There we go. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
feeling a little bit hungry after that, but Mark, thank you. So obviously, Mark, we're here at our annual general meeting, which is one of the many examples of how member owners can have a say in how their co-op is run. So your team delivers joining opportunities throughout the year, obviously giving member owners a chance to get involved. So do you mind just telling me a little bit more about some of those opportunities?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So absolutely, these kind of big set pieces of the AGM are really important to make sure members have their say, but my team look after everyday participation. So how we can get members to experience participating, shaping and engaging with their co-op as a member owner every day, every week, so that they really get to grips with the idea of being an owner, and that is an opportunity to them. So my team operate a sort of monthly cycle of activity. We work across our business teams to try and understand the areas that they're looking to develop and how members can really get in there at the right time to shape those ideas and thoughts. And then we present those out to members every month, and members can get involved. And normally kind of relatively small things so that build up over time. But lots of ways, every single one being an authentic way for people to genuinely shape their co-op. So we spend a lot of time telling lots of people no when it comes to kind of getting involved, because we want to make sure they're all really authentic opportunities. So I guess in terms of the kind of the types of activity people get involved in, so we tend to work across about 4 different areas. So the first element is products and services. So members love getting involved in shaping products and developing our services. People might recognise the food products that we develop, but we also develop a lot of products with our life services business. So our insurance, legal services, funeral care. Members are able to really get in there and shape some of that future strategy. So products and services, always really popular. Community is our second one. So it might be asking members to help shape how we support our communities, how we engage with them, what types of partners we should be working with, what types of kind of charities and support we should be developing, but also getting involved locally. So we link really closely to our member activator group, which are out across the UK, looking at member participation and bringing that to life locally through things like member forums and events. You've heard people talk about Great Big Green Week coming up soon.
Yes.
Massive job that our local team are going to be delivering, and my team deliver to make sure we do that. So we've got those two community. Third one, you've already heard from Paul around campaigns. He talked about a lot of campaigns that happened last year and into this year. Members are absolutely part of that. So, and you might be surprised to know kind of where, because so obviously we want members to get behind our campaigns and take action. But what we'll do is start really early with them on the very inklings of that campaign, asking them about how we might present it, how we might talk about it, what members might need from us to be able to understand more about them, and then building that over time. So Paul mentioned the Peace and Cooperation campaign. Our members have been helping us to develop that since this time last year, and we're now finally got that campaign out and asking members to get behind it. And then the final one is really about our unique co-op. So as anybody who's kind of got involved in the AGM and the elections will know, is that it's not the easiest of things to sort of make your way through. So our job is to help members understand why we are a unique cooperative. So we give them lots of helpful things like quizzes and activities to be able to understand more. And then we get them to find out more. And I know, Ivan, you starred recently in the video that we created for members about how to go about completing your vote in your elections, which are really, really important to help members, make the most of their membership. So we've got a whole range of things that we try to work on. Hope that's answered that question.
Yeah, fantastic answer. I think sometimes when you're in the movement, you sort of forget quite how much it is that we do. And I think as you sort of jogging my memory there, and it's really good to see. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing everything that's kind of coming up in the last year. And just very quickly, I know obviously we talk a lot about these big showcase events, but I think the Co-op Cafes, for example, that we held across the UK capitals last year in London, Edinburgh and Cardiff were a particular highlight for me. I think it was an 882% increase in attendance to those, which I thought was really good. So really looking forward to seeing what's coming in the coming year as well. Jackson.
So, is there anything else that you want to add at this point, Mark?
Could I just do a little bit of a plug for some things that are coming up?
Of course you can.
That's okay before we get on to the
we've got time.
Oh, lovely. So I've written down so I don't forget anything.
Go for it.
So just first of all, just to kind of remind members that we have a monthly email that has all of our joining opportunities in that. If you don't receive that email, the easiest way to do it is just make sure that you are marketable on our list. You can change that on the app really easily, or you can log into your membership account and do it there. Just change your preferences. It allows us to then send that email to you. That's all the joining opportunities for that month, so you can't miss it if you see that email. On a weekly basis, there's a joining email opportunity in the app. So every single week in the Discover tab, you'll find a joining opportunity. So again, back to that everyday participation, there should be an opportunity every time you go in there to get involved. And then if you've missed all of those, the easiest way is to go to our website, which is coop.co.uk/join in, and that'll give you everything that's live at that point. But just a few things to just checking the time for it. So we've got plenty of time.
Yes, we do.
Just a few things then. United Nations International Year. I'm sure it's been mentioned obviously by David earlier on. We've got lots of activity going through Join In to help people understand more about our global connections across different co-ops. So if you're interested in how co-ops operate in lots of different countries, we've got lots of activity coming up on our Join In to do that. Colleagues in Scotland have been working with us, this is a random one, but they've been working with us to identify bands and performers for Belladrum Tartan Heart Festival.
Wow.
And in this coming month's email, they'll be able to vote for the people that will appear on the main stage at Belladrum.
Wonderful.
So they've been able
Looking
to kind of get
forward to
that,
that.
as well as winning some tickets to go and see them themselves. I mentioned insurance. We've got lots of insurance conversations going on around holiday insurance particularly, but we're also going to be looking at pet insurance as well. The holiday insurance product was designed with members a good few years ago, and we're revisiting those all the time with members. Lots more food products coming up in the second part of the year, so look out for more of those products. And a bit of a shout out, so we've started doing something called the Gigathon, and as we're here in Co-op Live, which is where we invite members to come and spend a day with us, helping to shape different parts of our business and engage with us. And then in the evening, as a thank you, we bring them here to come and see a gig. So look out for those as well coming up, because they're going to be fantastic. So they're my plugs for what's coming up next time. I hope you can find them.
We like a good plug, Mark. Thank you so much. Well, I think that is it for our sofa conversation. Thank you for joining us so far. Don't go anywhere, because we have got the main event soon. Ivan and I have really enjoyed hosting the first part of your AGM, and I think I'm actually going to hand back to Mark for the main event. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. So shall I just look into this camera? Fantastic. Right. So as part of my side job is my team are looking after the online AGM this year. So if you are on the chat on the screen at the moment and you've been seeing things in the chat, that's my team. They're all there helping to make sure that we give you all the help you need to make the most out of the AGM. And they will be there to be able to answer any kind of practical questions, any technical questions, but also they'll drop lots of links and information in so that you can make the most of the conversations that are being held here in the room. I just needed to quickly mention around the question and answers for that. So we're not taking questions in the chat. That's very much a space for us to be able to ask you to share your views and your ideas, and then also to connect with us on those wider links. If you want to ask a question to the actual AGM, you'll need to use the Q&A button, which is on the top left of your screen. When you click on the Q&A button, there are two choices on that. So the first one is messages, and that is basically if you want to ask a question that will go through to Russ Brady, who will be in the auditorium downstairs, and he will ask those questions directly on your behalf. So if you'd rather he ask those questions, pop them into messages. If you'd rather come on camera and ask the message for yourself, then there's another tab which says live, ask your question live, and then you pop that question in there, and if you are selected, we'll then come back to you to let you know that you're ready to go, and Russ will give you a shout from the auditorium. We obviously can't answer all questions. We're going to try our hardest to curate as many questions as we can to make sure as many people get their kind of general question answer asked, even if it's not their specific question. So we're going to try and pull all that together and work hard to get those through. But if you don't have your question asked, you can really easily access us by email at agm@coop.co.uk. And all of those questions, if you ask that question through that email, they'll be responded to over the coming weeks after the AGM. So that's the practical stuff. If in any doubt at all, if you look to the left of your screen, you'll find the Welcome tab, and in there's much more detail about how to ask a question and what the process will be. I just wanted to flag finally that we've got some principles for the chat, because we know that this year we are going to be kind of exploring themes which are fairly kind of people will get really passionate about. And we just want to make sure that we are being careful in the chat, that everybody gets an opportunity to say what they feel, but also that we respect each other and ensure that we're being supportive of each other. So there are sort of 6 things that we just need to ask you to think about when you're in the chat and engaging. And my team will be having a look at this as well, and we'll remind you as we go through. But first of all, it's about respecting everybody, making sure that we're welcoming as many opinions as possible, but respectful for the fact of the opinions of other people. Be careful not to overshare. Don't share any links or any personal information in the chat. Absolutely don't want to do that. Obviously, no swearing, and obviously no discriminatory language. So we'll be picking up on that, and we will delete messages if we think that that's been this particular principle has been abused. And unfortunately, if it happens 2 times, we will be muting your access to the chat. So you'll still be able to see the AGM, but you won't be able to access the chat. Just be careful. Next one, number 4, is just turn down the heat. So we know that the conversations are like to be passionate, and there's nothing wrong with that, but just be careful that we're not letting things get too heated. Be careful about facts is number 5. So we know that facts are used by lots of different people in lots of different ways. We can't fact check things that people are putting onto the screen. So just be careful if anybody's posting on that one, that when we're not able to sort of check that those are correct. So be careful when you're using those. And then finally, don't spam. If you've made your point on the chat and people have seen it, that's great. Don't keep repeating the point and spamming the chat, because that just means that people can't access it when they want to. We are going to have a little bit of a cool down mechanism. So we're hoping the chat will be brilliant, and it will be. We know it will, because you're all cooperators and you'll help us to do this well. But if it starts to get a little bit heated, we might just pop in a sort of 5-minute cool down period where we pause the chat a little bit, let people take a break, and then come back in. But we will only keep it to 5 minutes. We'll make sure you're back in again, just to let people sort of take a breath and move away. But I'm sure that we're not going to have to worry about all of that. So I think, hopefully, giving you everything you need. Any questions at all in terms of the practicalities of the day, pop them into the chat, and a member of the team will give you a shout and let you know what the answers are to those. And I think we've just got some time now to be able to let you go, grab a cuppa, get settled down, get ready for the AGM, and that'll be starting in a little while. So thanks very much, everybody.
We are not expecting any fire drills at Co-op Live today. If for any reason we need to evacuate the building or the fire alarm sounds, there will be an announcement on the public address system. Should this happen after the meeting begins, members should leave the room through the emergency exits. The nearest one is just behind the stage to the left. If you need any assistance during the meeting, please reach out to one of the AGM team. They are the people in the blue Co-op t-shirts. There is a hearing loop in place. Members in Co-op Live who need to use it are asked to sit at one of the rows closest to the stage. The meeting is being filmed and will be posted to Co-op's YouTube channel next week. Today's meeting will be around 3 hours long with no planned break. During the meeting, please feel free to take a drink from the concession stall to the right of the room and move around if you so wish.
Hello and welcome to our Co-op AGM. Good morning, member owners. I know there's still a few of you taking your seats, but it is 10 o'clock and I'm going to start. So as I said last year at my first AGM as chair of our Co-op, it's a privilege to be here today to lead the meeting on behalf of all of you and all those people around the country who are our member owners. I'd like to welcome all of you who are here today in Co-op Live, the UK's largest indoor music arena, and those members joining us online, whether that's from home, I'm sure there's quite a few of those, or in one of the new 6 local events across the UK. So these events are being trialled and led by our member activators, and I think we should try and say hello to all of those in Glasgow, Sheffield, Cambridge, Bridgend, Exeter and Brighton, and they should be appearing on the screen now. We seem to have 2 black squares, but I'm sure that'll resolve itself. So thank you all for joining us today. And thank you to everyone who has made our AGM possible. As you will know, it takes a huge amount of effort to pull off an event like this, particularly given what has been going on, which I will come to shortly. I'd also like to thank Daisy. I had the pleasure of listening to Daisy from our Co-op Academy, Swinton. She was singing in the marketplace. And I'd also like to thank Ivan Brosnan, who's part of our Co-op's Young Members Group, and Jackson Mills, one of our regional operations managers, who did a fantastic This Morning Sofa chat. So I know there's a lot to cover today. We have shared some housekeeping details with you in advance of the meeting, basically to make sure that we can spend more time dialoguing with you. But as many of you know, safety for me is our #1 priority. And to reinforce the message that came over the tannoy a moment ago, there is no scheduled fire alarm test today. So if the alarm activates, please follow the signage to the nearest exit, and the team are on hand to assist you if this happens. Now, as we all know, our co-op has recently suffered a malicious and coordinated cyber attack. So I wanted to update you on where we are now with this issue. You will have seen messages from our co-op on the challenges that we experienced after sophisticated criminal hackers made a number of very targeted and totally sustained attempts to access our IT systems. There have been colleagues working tirelessly these last few weeks through a really complex and really demanding situation, and many of these colleagues have not had a day off since this happened. I'm really proud of how all of our colleagues, including everybody throughout the business, our in-store colleagues, our warehouse colleagues, and all of the team in One Angel Square, of how they've gone above and beyond to minimise as much as possible the disruption for our colleagues and our customers wherever we have been able to. Now, the threat was identified very, very early on, and immediate effective action was taken, which did include restricting some of our systems in order to protect our co-op, our members, and our colleagues. I am pleased to say that we are now very much in the recovery phase, and we are taking steps to remove the restrictions we put on our systems and bring systems gradually back online in a safe and controlled manner. So in our food business, our stock ordering system is now fully online, which means we are seeing improved stock availability in our food stores and online this weekend. There are multiple deliveries to our stores over the next couple of days. We're working really closely with our suppliers to restock our stores, and we've also been working closely with national authorities such as the National Cyber Security Centre, NCSC, and the National Crime Agency and the Information Commissioner's Office. And we're really grateful for the great working relationship that we have with them. And I can share with you that yesterday the board met with a couple of our advisors and the NCSC, and they have said that our team are doing a fantastic job in really difficult circumstances. Now, we do know that regrettably the hackers were able to gain access to some data relating to members. The member data that we believe the hackers were able to extract includes names, addresses, email addresses, phone numbers, and dates of birth. We do not believe they extracted members' passwords, identifiable payment card details, or any information relating to members' products or services with the co-op group. I again want to apologise to members for this. While we are sadly not invulnerable to external attacks, I am grateful to our colleagues for protecting our co-op against further impact, and I want to thank all of our member owners, wherever you are, for your continued support. I can assure you that we're doing everything we can to protect ourselves against any future attacks. We will continue to keep our members and customers informed of any further developments which might impact them or their co-op as soon as we're able to do so. Thank you for your patience and understanding as we get our systems back up and running and our business back to the high levels of service that you expect following this attack. We will take further questions you might have as part of the Q&A later. So, let's move on now to share the results of our member-nominated director, or MND, elections. As you know, over the last couple of weeks, co-op members have been voting to elect 2 member owners to represent them on our board. This year, our existing MND, Sarah McCarthy-Fry, stood for re-election as one of 3 candidates alongside Mitch Oliver and Ian Craig. I'm delighted to announce that Mitch and Sarah were successful. Sarah is obviously on the stage behind me, and I'll ask Mitch to hold up her hand wherever she is. Hi, Mitch. Welcome on board. Now, I'd like to take a brief moment to thank Margaret Casely-Hayford, who will be stepping down after today's meeting. Margaret has brought so much to our co-op over the last 9 years. Unfortunately, she's unable to join us here today, and she sends her apologies. Now, I'll quickly introduce our other board members here with us on stage. We've had a few changes since 2024, and I'd like to offer a particular warm welcome to our 2 new independent non-exec directors appointed early this year. They joined following the departure of Lord Victor Adebowale, who reached the end of his 9-year term on our board, and Rahul Power, who stepped down for personal reasons. So I'll begin with our 2 new faces. Lord Simon Woolley, if you'd like to raise your hand. There he is. And Wise Shafter. There he is. So, of course, we have our Chief Executive, Shireen, Rachel, our Chief Financial Officer, Kate Allen, where's Kate? Kate's right behind me, who succeeded Stevie Spring as our REMCO Chair last year, Luke Jensen, and INED, Moni Mannings, our Senior Independent Director, or SID, Adrian Marsh, Chair of our Risk and Audit Committee, sat next to Rachel. Sarah, we've talked about. Christine Tackon, also an MND, who was elected by you last year. So it's great to see everybody here. And on the stage, we also have Denise Scott MacDonald, President of our National Members Council, in the red jacket, and Dom Kendall Ward, our GC and Group Secretary behind me. Welcome to all of them, and welcome also to our group's operating board and senior leaders, many of whom are actually sat in front of me, and they're also here, obviously, to help with any questions you might have as we get to the Q&A. We also have our external auditors, Ernst & Young, and our independent scrutineers, Civica, who will administer the voting on our motions today. So very shortly, I'll share the plan for the day, with opportunities to talk to those matters which are important to you, our members. But before I do, I think we should just press the pause button and acknowledge the progress we have made since we met last year, details of which were shared in our annual report last month. So despite the significant challenges and economic headwinds which faced our businesses across the UK, our co-op, the UK's largest cooperative, is stronger today than it has been for many years. It's stronger because of the steps we've taken to improve our financial position. It's stronger because of the greater clarity we have around our vision, and it's stronger because we are listening more to what our member owners are telling us and acting upon it. Our speakers will touch on this more later, but we've been able to significantly grow active membership numbers year on year by 22% to 6.2 million before the end of 2024, and today we're at 6.5 million. By the end of 2024, we had improved our underlying profitability by 35% to 131 million, while reducing our net debt by 33% to 55 million. We've continued to act on the issues you have told us concern you most, including retail crime, the environment, skills, employment, and mental well-being. And of course, we remain ready to listen and to engage and to act in your best interests and ensure that your voice is heard in this country. Creating a successful and sustainable business that drives increasing value for its member owners is as important to us today as it has ever been. We should recognise the efforts of Shireen and her team here for keeping our co-op strong in the face of these external challenges, and for having the ambition and the drive to keep us on the front foot. That's especially in light of the economic challenges, the geopolitical uncertainty, and this recent cyber incident, as well as our need to stay disciplined and agile for any new headwinds in the future, of which we know there will be. Now, this year is recognised by the UN as the International Year of Cooperatives. And as we prepare to join this year's International General Assembly for cooperators here in Manchester, I'm really honoured to chair a co-op with so much valuable insight to share, but one which is constantly learning from others at the same time. That is truly what cooperation is all about. So, back to today's meeting, let's review the agenda. So firstly, and incredibly importantly, I will introduce the motions and then I will open the voting on motions for those who are here in the room. You will be able to vote at any point during the meeting up until 12 p.m. We will give you reminders on the screen before the voting window closes. We'll then move on to some updates related to last year's motions and ensure that members understand what we've done about what they voted on. Kate Allen will share more detail on animal welfare, and then we'll hand on to our other speakers. Denise will provide our National Members Council view of the last year, and then Shireen and Rachel will share their insight on our performance in 2024, whilst also considering the future for our co-op. And then we hope to hear from you. We have an hour for a dedicated session to take questions from those of you in the room here or joining remotely. This will include pre-submitted questions for those members who could not take part today, and I'll provide more detail on how to ask your question as we begin that session. Then, following its success last year, we had some great feedback on this. We will hold our second ever AGM members discussion. This will be based on the latest feedback from our member owners, and which they have shared, and will continue to do so through our big co-op survey. The topics this year are conflict, climate and skills and opportunities. And then after our discussion, I'll share the results of the voting on motions and bring our AGM to a close at around 1 o'clock. Now, to give our members sufficient time for the Q&A and for the discussion, because this has got to be a two-way thing for us, we understand from your feedback that the Remuneration Committee update at previous AGMs has taken up valuable time. So this year, because of that, Kate Allen prepared a detailed update as a video with information on the pay structures at our co-op. This was made available to members ahead of today's AGM, together with further video updates from Denise, Shireen and Rachel, so that they can really focus on today's headlines and any new information when they talk today. These videos are live on our website, and we hope that they will remain useful to you to view in your own time if you haven't already looked at them. Now, let's move on to this year's motions. We have 13 motions this year, including 3 from our National Members Council and 2 raised by individual members. It's really great to see our member owners taking this opportunity to be heard on important issues for them and for our co-op. There are 2 motions which have been proposed by our members, one on animal welfare and one on trading with Israel, and these topics have been gaining momentum in the conversations we've been having with all of our members across all of our communication channels. Animal welfare especially has been raised many times over the last 2 years, including as part of the last 2 AGMs. And as I've said, Kate will give a focused update very shortly on this topic. Now, on to voting. As mentioned earlier, in a change to previous years, you'll be able to vote on the motions at any point during today's meeting up until 12 p.m. As a reminder, only eligible members, voting representatives and corporate representatives in the room who have not already voted are able to vote here today. Members watching online or from one of our local events will not be able to vote today. Their votes should have been cast in the past few weeks, either online, by post or through the app. All those votes will be added together to those cast this morning before we announce the results, and we will, as I've said, we'll announce those before the end of the meeting. So there are 13 motions you can vote on, as I've said, by accessing the CES Join-In portal using your personal smartphone or tablet, or one provided to you as you arrived this morning. If you don't have a device or you're experiencing technical difficulties in accessing the portal, members of the Civica team are on hand to support. They're located at the back of the room at the Civica station. Members in the room who wish to vote, please do now check and ensure you're connected to the Wi-Fi. Access details for the network are on the screen behind me, and you should log into the CES Join-In portal using the codes you were given at registration. Now, detail on each of the year's motions and the board's responses to council and individual member motions are included in the AGM booklet. This is available on the CES Join-In portal and on our website. We also have hard copies at the back of the room should you wish to get one. All motions are on a poll vote and need a simple majority to be passed. So I can now confirm voting is open for those in the room. As I've already mentioned, we will show reminders on the screen. Voting does close at 12 p.m. sharp. Please don't forget to have your say. And remember, we're donating £1 to every partner charity, to our partner charity, Bernardo's, for every member owner who votes. And last year, this raised over £43,000 for a really excellent cause. So this feels like a good point to update you on the progress on last year's motions and how we took action after your vote. I will share a brief update, but there's even more detail in the You Said, We Did booklet, which is available on the website. So at last year's AGM, our members voted overwhelmingly in favour of making healthy options even more affordable in our stores and providing even more good value basics as the cost of living crisis continued. We then went on to invest in over 170 own brand products, including across staples, and we introduced lower member prices on 54 fruit and veg items. We introduced and promoted healthier products as part of certain combination deals and added more vegetables to our traditional ready meals, including some great new vegetarian options. We did more to inspire our members, I hope, to reduce food waste and prepare healthier meals. We also last year had a motion on retail crime and re-offending. Now, before I update on this specific motion, we have to acknowledge and celebrate the role that our co-op and its members have already played in the assault of a shop worker becoming a standalone offence in Scotland, the creation of the police's first ever retail crime action plan, and the UK government committed to introducing the same legislation as Scotland this summer. Now, last year's motion specifically recognised the persistence of reoffending in our stores, and we've invested over £1.3 million across 400 projects designed to break these patterns of offending, and a further £44 million in 16,000 other projects intended to reduce crime in our communities. Our members also voted in favour of a co-op DNA motion last year to further celebrate what it means to belong to our co-op and our movement and why being a member owner is so special. We've done a lot of work to put member ownership back at the heart of everything we do, and our Owned by You, Right by You campaign last year appeared as part of every single member and customer touchpoint. We welcomed our new member activators who engage our member owners on all aspects of member value and encourage members to participate in their business. And from my perspective, it clearly paid off. 1.7 million of you got involved in your co-op, influencing our strategy, choosing our leaders, and helping create products or change products. 1.5 million of us took part in a chance to win for you and for your chosen local course as part of our new Winner Shares It All competition. And I'm delighted to say that member sales now account for 40% of all sales in our food business, and those sales grew by 22% in 2024. As I said before, we recognise that animal welfare, especially the welfare of chickens, remains important to our members and continues to generate great conversation. So with a further related motion today, we wanted to provide another update, and I'm going to ask Kate to come and provide that. Thank you.
Again today is
Okay. You go. Yeah. Thank you, and thank you for respectfully taking your seat. No, I'm afraid you've made your point. Please sit down, or I'll have to ask security to move you. Now, I've asked you to sit down. This is the second time I'm asking you to sit down. And I'm afraid now I'm going to have to ask security to escort you out of our meeting. Can I ask security to appropriately escort these members out of the meeting? Please leave the meeting and let us continue with our AGM. Thank you. Please leave the meeting. Please leave the meeting. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay. We'll now continue with the AGM. Thank you. Kate.
I assume everybody can hear me, even though we've still got a bit of noise in the background. So good morning, everybody. As I did at the last AGM, I am really pleased to be able to give you an update on the progress we've made on animal welfare. It is a topic that I know many of you, our members, are interested in, and clearly many people feel very passionately about it. But before I address the motion, I really want to take the opportunity to explain more about how we champion welfare and British sourcing. And it's a real positive step that our approach has been recognised in the annual Independent Business Benchmark for Animal Welfare report, which ranked our co-op as the third highest overall UK retailer, putting us ahead of the big four supermarkets and the discounters. And the real reason we have that position is that when we drive change, not only do we deliver on it, but more often than not, we do exceed expectations. I'll give you a couple of examples on that. When we moved to 100% free-range eggs in 2008, we'd made that step, but then we extended it in 2010 to include eggs used as an ingredient, which is a far-reaching position to take. When we moved to outdoor bred pork in 2018, we didn't stop at fresh products. We also included hams and bacons. In addition to that, our actions extend beyond animal welfare to the farmers who care for the livestock that supplies our food chain. We only sell 100% British-owned brand meat, and we only use 100% British meat as an ingredient in all of our products. So from our chicken sandwiches to our pork pies and our beef lasagnas, it's 100% British. On top of this, all of our milk, fresh cream and cheddar cheese are also fully sourced 100% British. So I'm actually very proud to be a board member of our co-op, knowing that we don't only deliver on commitments to animal welfare, but we always endeavour to increase their scope and their impact. And when we make these decisions, our track record demonstrates that we stick to them. And that's why we don't make decisions that we don't think are the right ones for us to move forward on. We've seen many examples of other retailers and food service providers who make those commitments but then step away from them. And some of those have happened very recently, even in the last 2 weeks. And by supporting British farmers in this way, our co-op strengthens our national agri-economy, it supports UK food security, and it gives our farmers the confidence to invest both in their business and the welfare of the animals in their care. And it is our steadfast commitment to both welfare and British sourcing that actually has driven and continues to drive long-lasting and meaningful change. So against that backdrop, I'll now move on to talk about the motion. And again, I'm really proud to say that the recent actions we've taken on chicken welfare have put our co-op significantly ahead of most other retailers. Aside from Waitrose and Marks and Spencer, no other national UK supermarket does more than we do. In February 2024, we launched Space to Thrive, moving all our fresh chicken to the lower stocking density that we committed to do last year. And actually, the team worked really hard, and we delivered that and got the product on shelf 9 months earlier than planned, which was no mean feat. Since then, we've been one of the first retailers to extend the lower stocking density criteria to all of our breaded and ready-to-eat chicken products, which actually that is another huge step forward because we actually sell more of those products than we do fresh. We also continue to work with our suppliers, making sure that we're adopting the latest technology on farm. An example of that would be AI-assisted cameras, which actually help farmers to really quickly identify and resolve any welfare issues that they see. As I have already said, we are resolute in our commitment to source British protein, and we will not waver from this. So to be crystal clear, this means we will not sell chlorinated chicken. Regarding the Better Chicken commitment, our co-op actually adheres to all the criteria apart from the breed, and there are very good reasons why we haven't switched to a slower growing breed of chicken, which actually we've outlined in the AGM booklet. So as we know, there are many vigorous supporters of changing breed, and we do acknowledge that passionate belief. But it's really important to us to make sure we're transparent with you and that you acknowledge our very real and practical reasons why changing breed is not the right thing for our co-op. We have taken many factors into account when we've made this decision, and it's not a decision we've taken lightly. Slower growing breeds of chicken actually require many more farms to be built, barns to be built, but land use for agriculture has been under pressure for some time now. And the result of that is that the UK planning process for building new barns is challenging, complex, and expensive. So whilst we're very pleased that other retailers are joining us and committing to the lower stocking density for their chickens, we can't forget that that's already put pressure on the land usage on farm. We also recognise that slower growing birds, mainly because of the increased feed use, do have a higher carbon footprint, and that's another consideration that we have to take into account. But last and not least, there is a significant economic impact, which would affect our members, our customers, and our co-op. Our members have told us that actually the cost of living is one of the top concerns for them at the moment, and we don't believe it would be right to impose significant price increases on people who are already worried about their weekly budgets, especially as chicken is often the primary protein in many households. We take our responsibilities of balancing all those factors really seriously and making sure we deliver for our members. So we've had to weigh up all of these factors in making our decision. We absolutely share our members' passion for animal welfare. And again, I'll say I am really proud of the progress that's been made over recent years. And we will stay focused on continuing to explore any and all opportunities to improve standards across our supply chain. But it does have to be in tandem, balancing the impacts on British farming, the environment, and on the prices that our members and customers pay for the chicken they buy for us. So thank you very much for listening. I'll hand you over to Denise, and I will be around later if anybody has questions they want to ask. Thank you.
Hello everybody here at Co-op Live, and also hello to all those who are joining us online all across the country. I'm Denise Scott MacDonald, and I'm the president of your National Members Council. Your council is made up of about 100 really passionate, really excited, fantastic, I call cooperators. They are totally on fire, and they keep me on my job and on my feet, but they absolutely love being part of the Co-op group. You elected them to represent your views. We use your voice and champion your interests influence decisions, and ask questions about how our co-op is delivering value for you. We are also a big advocate of our co-op difference and focus on how co-ops can be a successful cooperative business that does the right thing. Council works closely with our board and business on your behalf. Last year was a big year for our co-op and our new vision, cooperating to build more value for our member owners every day. Puts you at the heart of everything we do. I would like to record our thanks, especially on behalf of the Council, to all of our colleagues, 54,000 of them, who work incredibly hard all across this country. And can we do a round of applause for our colleagues? Thank you. Continuing to deliver value for our member owners with Debbie and Shireen and the rest of the team. Our strategy of putting cooperation and members at the very, very, very heart of what we do is the right one, and it's showing to do the things that are differently. As Debbie mentioned earlier, the last couple of weeks, I don't know about you, but me too, have been challenging time for our co-op following the criminal act, the criminal attack on our system. I would like to add my sincere thanks to you, our members and colleagues, for everything you've done to support our co-op. I know that many of you have contacted your local council members and your local representatives and shared your concerns, and we have been raising them over the last few weeks and sharing your questions and your concerns with the board and the business. And we will be working with Debbie and Shireen and their team as the co-op continues to recover from this attack and represent you and your views. Also, as you've heard from Debbie, economic challenges and the cost of living is still very, very real for so many of you, as well as myself. I mean, sometimes I worry even about the price of bread, you know, and watching it go up, but I'm so glad we got member pricing. It really helps me anyway. It's tough for many of us at the moment, and we feel that the end is not in sight. It's our job as your council and board and colleague to respond to that, and we have. We've lowered prices on hundreds of everyday basics without compromising on the quality and ethical standards we are known for in our food, stores and life services. Members voted overwhelmingly for our council motion last year where you told us you wanted lower pricing on more healthy items and household basic goods. And as a result, as Debbie said, our co-op introduced member prices on 54 fruits and vegetable items. We have also continued to take action on issues you care about, from supporting local communities through our local community fund calls, chosen by you, and to lead in the way on sustainability, on packaging and supporting British farmers. And that's along with the big social issues, staying true to our value of solidarity and equality. We'll talk later in our members' discussion about access to skills and the great work we're doing in apprenticeship, but the one I'm personally proud of is the way our co-op has led the charge on tackling violence against shop workers. Council has consistently championed and raised this issue for the past 6 years, and it's phenomenal to see that by coming together as co-op members, we've got a commitment to change the law to make violence against shop workers a stand-alone offence. We will continue to fight to make retail workplace safe for our colleagues and for our members. Co-op members have said enough is enough, and our colleagues deserve better. Members also told us they are increasingly concerned about division in our communities and the conflicts abroad. I know it's very personal to me, watching just so many things as the news cycle changes all the time and all the tension that's out there. So as I am also proud of our Hate Divides Community Cooperation Builds Them campaign. As 6.5 million members together, we can make a difference. For years, Council has said that we need to shout loudly and proudly about what makes us different. And again, members have said by voting overwhelmingly for the Council motion last year. I am So proud of our Own by You, Right by You campaign, which was launched last year. It was not easy to do, and I'd like to say a big thank you to Kenyatta Nelson, our Chief Membership Officer and Customer, and his team for bringing cooperation to life. And it's working. We welcome more than 1 million new members in 2024, taking our total to 6.5 million today. So if this is your first AGM, and whether you are in the room right now or at one of our sites, welcome, and I really hope you enjoy it. This is really important because the more members we have who trade with us in all of our business, the more value we can create to invest back in areas you told us that matter, like member pricing, and in the work that we do in social value, in supporting individuals, communities, and our planet. Co-ops do good and create a better world. And as Debbie has said, this is the second United Nations International Year of Cooperatives. And in July, which I'm really excited about, we'll be welcoming fellow cooperators from around the world to the UK to talk about the power of what we can achieve together. We need to continue to shout about the things that make Co-op different: our founding, our heritage, our cooperative values, and how the way we do business is truly different to others. In the UK, the national government has committed to doubling the size of the cooperative and mutual sector. That's something that will make our society better, as co-ops are business that do right by people and not small groups of shareholders. As the largest retail co-op in the UK, we are firmly backing this, and I'm pleased that Shireen and Debbie are working with other sector leaders to make that happen. This includes colleagues from Co-ops UK and Co-op Party, who are supported by our members. And a big part of how we do things as a member-owned business is that you shape what we do and how we do it. You have a voice and influence. Last year, we held our first large member-owner survey, giving you the chance to have a voice heard on issues that mattered for people and for our planet, that you wanted to business your own to get behind. We also now have a network of amazing colleagues, our member activators, who work with your council members and members locally to bring people together. In the autumn, member owners from across the UK came together through events in cities, online, and local sessions to talk about membership and how you wanted to be rewarded for being a member and work continually. Your member council will continue to represent you with pride, champion values and principles. We want to support and empower you to understand more about co-ops and how you get involved in your co-op, because we all own this business. Together, we are a collective voice of 6.5 million, and that voice can be really powerful and make a difference. Thank you once again so much for your support. I want to thank the board. I want to thank the National Members Council. Can you wave, National Members Councils? I know some of you are up at front. These are your members. They're the guys that do all the hard work and hard lifting, holding the board to account. And I want to say thank you to the National Members Council for all the work that you've done to get us to this place. Thank you. And I will hand over to Shireen.
Thank you very much, Denise, and good morning, everyone. It is so good to see you all here today, and also a very warm welcome to everyone who is joining us online. If you are one of the 1.2 million member owners who joined us last year, I also want to welcome you to your first Co-op AGM. So before I go any further, I would like to mention the recent cyber incident. It's not only affected our co-op, but a number of other retailers as well. And as Debbie said, it was a sustained and sophisticated attack on the systems that we use to run our co-op. Its purpose was nothing less than malicious, with the intent to cause disruption to our ability to offer our products and services to our members and our customers. I'm also devastated that data was stolen. We reported this to the authorities, and we disclosed it to our members as soon as we were aware of it. And you will have also received a number of direct communications from us about this. We're all really disheartened at being targeted this way. Now, everyone in our co-op works incredibly hard every day to serve our members, our colleagues, and our communities. And as this incident has proven, no more so than when we're faced with a challenge. I'm incredibly grateful to our 54,000 colleagues for the way that you've all pulled together over the last 3 weeks. And I'm particularly grateful to the teams who are directly involved, who've been working around the clock to allow us to keep our businesses operating as safely as possible and to bring our systems back online. I also want to say a special thank you to our colleagues on the front line who are directly supporting our members and customers and handling their questions every day. And finally, I wanted to thank our colleagues in IT security and technology under Rob Elzey's leadership. Some of the incredible work that they've done and are doing is now public, and I couldn't be more proud to work with such a talented and quick-thinking team. Really well done. And as Debbie said, the world around us also continues to be incredibly challenging. Global conflicts and human suffering are never ending. The economy, both here and globally, is fragile, and it's creating tough trading conditions for all businesses. And as we've seen recently, it seems that some nations' democracy is even coming under threat. Against this backdrop, the need for a strong, confident, and forward-looking co-op is more important than it has been in decades. We need only look at what's being discussed at this meeting to realize that our co-op is in a healthy place. I can't think of another business in this country where the items and the motions that are being discussed and voted on are so varied and so meaningful. And while others are rowing back, our co-op is rowing forwards, and democracy is alive and well in our society. Shortly, Rachel will take you through our 2024 financial performance, and while we're all aware of the economic headwinds, I'm very pleased to say that it was another year of progress for us, and we can confidently say that we ended the year in a stronger position than when we started it. Before that, I wanted to share some of our highlights for 2024 and a little about our ambitions for 2025. I won't go too much into the detail, as I know that many of you will have read this in our annual report, and hopefully you'll have seen the video that we shared ahead of today. We launched our new vision, cooperating to build more value for our member owners every day, ensuring that every single one of our 54,000 colleagues understood exactly how they contribute to this. And alongside this, we shared our ambition to grow our co-op to 8 million active member owners by 2030. Because the more active member owners we have, the more member owners trade with us, the more value we can create and return together. And it's that value that allows us to make the changes in our co-op that benefit you. These are changes like the £92 million we invested last year in reducing member prices, the £36 million we invested in growing our 30% discount on our own brand products for colleagues, and £20 million invested into local causes and community support. Our Co-op Academies Trust continued to change the lives of over 22,000 children from 38 schools across the North, helping them to succeed using cooperative values, whatever their background. And just this week, I was able to attend the opening of our Brierley Academy in Yorkshire. Brierley is one of 4 co-op academies that are designed specifically to support students with additional needs. And they have a range of specialized spaces tailored to enhance learning and well-being, including sensory rooms, an immersive space, and dedicated life skills areas. I was especially impressed with how closely the school works with parents and the local community to make sure that the children we serve have the best life experience, not only in school, but also when they're at home. Externally, we knew that we needed to shout loud and proud about the benefits of being a co-op, the power of cooperation, and to educate the UK about our difference. And our Owned by You, Right by You marketing campaign really helped us to bring this message to the public. But it doesn't stop there. One of the most unique elements of how our co-op is that we champion what matters to you, our member owners. We do this in many ways, including our work lobbying government on retail crime, which we've been doing since you brought it to us as a member motion in 2018. And we were absolutely delighted when this February the government published its crime and policing bill, which makes assaulting a shop worker a standalone offense. And we expect this to actually come into force this summer when the crime and policing bill receives royal assent. At this meeting last year, you also asked us to reduce prices on healthy products and ingredients, and we responded by introducing our Fresh 3 deal, with lower prices on 3 fresh products every trading period. And as Denise mentioned earlier, we also lowered prices on household basics such as cleaning products. And also, during last year's big survey, where you told us what matters to you, you said that peace and cooperation were important. And we responded with our Hate Divides Communities, Cooperation Builds Them campaign. Global conflict continues to be high on the list of concerns of our members, and you've told us that you expect your co-op to do what it can to promote peace and cooperation. So we're campaigning to make cooperation and cooperatives an integral part of how the UK government and non-governmental organizations, or NGOs, look to rebuild post-conflict. At the same time, we launched our Fund for International Cooperative Development in December 2024, and that is a fund for cooperatives led by cooperatives. And we did all of that because you asked us to. Over 1.2 million new member owners joined us last year, and as Debbie said, that took us to 6.2 million members by 2024. And that was 22% more than at the end of 2023. And I'm so proud that we're now at 6.5 million member owners. In 2024, our co-op welcomed over 23,000 new members each week. And among the 1.2 million new members, over 340,000 were under the age of 25, which is a 66% increase on 2023. During 2024, 1.7 million members took ownership action in our co-op, from influencing our strategy to involvement in product development and supporting local projects. And of this number, many members joined in for 2 or more activities during the year. And that meant that year on year, member participation grew 60%. And those who shop with us spent £3.1 billion with us last year, an increase of 19% on the previous year. And also that meant that in 2024, members could save around £500 a year with us based on an average weekly shop. So this active membership is our point of difference. It's what makes us special. It's unbeatable by others. It's what will drive us forward into the future. But it's also what helps us to have conversations about topics that really matter, even if, as we saw with the protest earlier, it means that we have to continue to have conversations to reach the right place between us. So looking ahead to 2025, as Debbie and Denise have said, it's the United Nations' second designated International Year of Co-ops. And as the UK's largest cooperative, we're delighted to be hosting the International Cooperative Alliances Conference here in Manchester in July. Co-ops from over 100 different countries will be represented right here. It's also even more important now than ever that our co-op is at the forefront and leading this, especially with the government's commitment to doubling the size of the cooperative sector. We will continue to listen in 2025. We will continue to communicate with you in 2025. We intend to stay close and connected to what you're asking for from our co-op. And it's how we've always done things, and it's how we'll continue to move forward. We're also off to a strong start with our Aldi Price Match campaign on 131 lines in our food stores. We have an exciting new partnership in our wholesale business, which will see us supplying Road Chef locations all across the UK. We've opened our second new franchise store in the NHS, and we're able to offer member-specific pricing on funerals and on insurance. Also, in the second half of the year, we will launch our new social value strategy, which will focus our co-op into those social and environmental areas of primary importance to our colleagues and to our members, where we can have the most impact. The social value strategy focuses on equal access for all, equal access to opportunity, a sustainable future, and on well-being and peace of mind. Tens of thousands of you have helped us to shape this strategy, and I'm so grateful to everyone who did that. And in doing so, you've helped to shape the future of many, not just here in the UK, but also globally. Access to opportunity will see us continue to work to tackle structural and social barriers that limit life chances, from education and employment to fair access in the workplace. You'll see us continue to work with the Co-op Academies Trust, supporting young people, no matter what their background is. Our partnership with Bernardo's, our work with the Royal Foundation, which supports the very youngest children in the UK and their parents, and much more. Access to a sustainable future will help us to focus on empowering people, communities, and businesses to act on the climate challenge and drive the transition to a fairer, greener economy. We will continue to ensure that our business operations are sustainable and that we continue to contribute to net zero. And we will champion a fair transition to this by lobbying government and others for climate policies that work for small businesses and benefit real people and their families and communities all over the country. And then finally, access to well-being and peace of mind is about much more than just health. It's about feeling safe. It's about feeling supported and connected, especially during life's most difficult moments. So we'll be continuing to fund our grassroots projects through our local community fund, supporting a wide range of local community-led causes across the UK, with 5 million to be shared across 2,500 charities and community groups this year alone. And very importantly, we'll be expanding our peace and cooperation work, using the cooperative model and values to support communities living with conflict and division, both here in the UK and also internationally. All of this is only possible because of the strong position our co-op is now in, due to the hard work of all of my colleagues and the engagement of our member owners over the last 3 years. For this, I'm incredibly grateful and thank each and every one of you, especially now as we all continue to work so hard to recover after our co-op was attacked. I'm so grateful for the support of Debbie, our group board, our council, our cooperative brothers and sisters, and my incredible leadership team. People often say that my job is a lonely one, but I am so lucky that with these incredible people around me, including our members, I've never felt lonely. But then on the flip side, I've never been short of constant constructive feedback either. And all of us are, of course, grateful to you, to our member owners, for choosing us, for trading with us, engaging with us, and for staying with us. Our co-op genuinely would not be where it is without you. So thank you all very much for listening, and I'll hand you over to Rachel now.
Right. Hello, everybody. I'm Rachel Izzard. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for our amazing co-op. And it's an absolute joy for my second year to be standing here again at the AGM, and a particular joy to be doing that, to run through a fabulous set of financial results for the year with 2024. So bear with me, quick 10 minutes, we'll run through the financials. Now, as Shireen said, 2024 was a year really powered by membership growth. And that enabled us to lean into some significant external challenges, really tough market conditions. And despite those headwinds, we moved all our financial metrics forward. And at the same time, we kept a really careful eye on maintaining the balance sheet health that has been hard fought for and hard won over the last couple of years. So next 10 minutes, I'll give you a quick walkthrough across the profit and loss and the balance sheet and give you a sense of those 2024 financials. So let's start with the profit and loss. I've picked out 3 key metrics here. I picked out sales, so essentially the revenue coming in, the income across all of our business units. Then underlying operating profit, more of our trading profitability, where we take account of some of the costs of our mortgage, but not the full cost of the mortgage. And then full underlying profit or loss before tax, where we take account of the full mortgage. And in particular, this is around of our profitable, sustainable growth aims. This is the profitable growth part of the aims. And then when we get to balance sheet, we'll keep a real eye about whether that growth is sustainable and relative to our invested capital. So bear with me, P&L first. Let's start with sales. So from a sales perspective, group turnover for the year was 11.3 billion. And on the face of that, that was flat year on year. However, we're a retailer mainly, and we work in retail weeks and accounting weeks, and 2023 had a 53rd week within it. So if we strip out that 53rd week effect, actually underlying group sales were up 1.5%. So now we are a group, and I'm going to split it out business unit by business unit, so nobody will get left out for my colleagues that are sitting around. So first of all, up with food. Food sales was 7.4 billion and up almost 4%. Now that was a really strong result because the wider convenience market was actually contracting. So we had a contracting wider convenience market, yet we grew almost 4%. And that was a significant take of market share in convenience, and actually we held our own with the big box retailers within that. How did we do that? We didn't buy it with extra capital and lots more space. We're very disciplined with our space, and we've really learnt that over the last couple of years. So our store portfolio was broadly flat, about 1% openings and 1% closing, and we really focused on increased sales and contribution per store. And what was driving that in particular was the continued rollout of quick commerce and the significant set of initiatives in membership, in particular price, but across our whole product proposition. So a strong result from food in a difficult market. That difficult market really played through in our business-to-business business unit. Sales were 3.5 billion, that contracted just under 4% and held market share in that difficult market. Because in particular, in areas like co-op wholesale, we wholesale to the smaller symbols and independents market, which was really challenging through 2024 and is still so into 2025. Now, there were some glimmers of real strong news within that, though, as well. As Shireen talked to, we have a small but growing franchise business, and we opened 20 new stores within the year, including our first NHS and MOD sites. So moving on finally, our smallest, but certainly not least area, life services, only 400 million, but 400 million of high growth turnover, so up 7.5%. And life services is our most margin accretive. The highest ratio margin is within life services. So that growth is really important to us for value it can return to our co-op group as well. So a very good year for life services. Another stellar year with legal services, but funeral care for at-need held market share, and for pre-need really got back onto the front foot with offering great pre-need pre-sales, which sets us up for value for the future. So altogether, group sales 1.3 billion, but underlying up 1.5%. So let's move on to profitability and move to underlying operating profit, our trading profit. Now, underlying op profit for the year was 131 million, and that was up 34 million. We finally broke past that 100 million barrier that we've been at for the last couple of years. Now, that looks a good result. From our perspective, this was a great result considering the headwinds that were coming at us. Because if we look here left to right, last year to this year, 97 million achieved in 2023. Week 53, whilst it's a distraction with sales, isn't a distraction at profit level. But we had over 200 million of headwinds coming at us. Now, those headwinds are a combination of external factors impacting us, but also careful, intentional choices to invest that we've made. The first of those I'll pull out is that investment in price I mentioned in the food results. Now, we invested 80 million more year on year in keeping and lowering our prices down. That Shireen in particular called out some examples, that is Denise. That 80 million goes with the prior investment, and we're now at 140 million invested in keeping our prices low. That was an intentional choice. It was a big bet, but it paid off, and it was a big part of that performance, almost 200 million going up, was that bet paid off, and we saw significant increase in membership, significant increase in volume going through, in particular in our food business, and it was a big part of beating that wider convenience market. So a big investment in price. We also made a large investment in colleague pay, £96 million year on year in increasing colleague pay. And we also saw significant external cost inflation pressure across all of our cost base. So second year running that we've had more than 200 million of headwinds. Now going the other way, a circa 43 million price help from energy pricing because of 2022 and 2023 where energy prices shot through the roof. They've come down now, started to settle, and our careful hedging process has enabled that to settle down, and we benefited by 43 million of price help from energy prices settling down. And then we generated almost 200 million of performance benefits. So that increase, taking a market share and volume within food, helped by that membership set of initiatives, the marketing, the price investment, but also quick commerce showing through there. The life services high growth and high value really helping us with performance, and then cost efficiency processes and progress made across all of our group to help battle back against those headwinds and push that underlying op profit up by that 34 million. So sales flat, but underneath up 1.5%, underlying op profit breaking past that 100 million barrier, offsetting the headwinds and up to 131 million. But we need to keep going down the full PBT, the full profit and loss, because we need to really understand whether after all the costs of the mortgage, essentially, did we make a profit or loss? Now, this is my particularly pleasing one for the year, and I was particularly wedded to achieving this. The profit or loss for the year was 45 million profit. Now, this compares to a loss the prior year, but a loss for the previous 3 years, and that is the first time since 2020 we have got back into the black and made a full profit or loss before tax. So a great achievement. That £47 million increase was a 34 million from the underlying op profit and 13 million coming from lower interest costs on really managing that balance sheet well, keeping our debt low, meant despite a high continuing Bank of England rate, we managed to reduce our interest costs, and that came together to get that back in the black result for PBT. So solid progress made across all of the profit and loss. 1.5% underlying growth in sales, breaking past the 100 million barrier in underlying op profit and back into the black at the PBT level. So hence, very pleased to see that solid progress across the P&L. Now moving on to balance sheet. For balance sheet, I'm going to look at the run rate of the last 3 years as an average to compare to, because balance sheet is more of a slow-moving beast, and we need to keep maintaining that and moving that forward. The 3 measures I've picked out here are net debt. That's basically how much we owe to bank and bondholders compared to the amount of cash we've got in the bank. And then talking of cash, the next one is cash from operations. Because accountants like me can talk about a profit and loss all they like, but what really matters is, are we generating that into cash? And then what are we doing with our cash to carefully invest for our collective co-op's future? And then return on capital employed on the right is that real sustainability of our financials, of seeing the earnings that we're moving forward. Is it keeping up and beating inflation? And are we doing a decent return compared to the size of money that we've invested in our co-op? So let's start with net debt. Net debt is a great story over the last few years. In 2021, our total net debt was 2.4 billion. It's then averaged 2 billion over the last 3 years, and this year closed at 1.2 billion. So halving our level of net debt since 2021. Now, the big blue number in there is our lease debt, where we lease stores, or we lease depots, or we lease funeral care facilities. That's come down as we carefully and intentionally do fiscal discipline with our footprint out there. So that's come down, but the biggest swing, the biggest reduction is in core debt. Now, this is the amount we owe to bank and bondholders compared to the cash we own. And that has come down 94% since 2021 and closed the year at 55 million. That 55 million is 420 million of cash, almost enough now to fully offset the remaining bondholder debt that we have outstanding. Now, that bondholder debt comes due and matures within the next 18 months, and we've got really good, clear line of sight of how we're going to cover that off, and I'll update you more when we go through the half-year results on that one. So great place to be, and in particular great for our resilience and our financial risk management. Because going into incidents like we've had for the last couple of weeks, we could go in with confidence that we had cash in the bank and our balance sheet was in a good state. To be able to lean into that and manage that incident together and really pull through together. So great position on net debt. Moving on to cash from operations. So you can make an accounting profit, but did you generate cash? Short answer, yes, we generated cash. 456 million in the year, up about 10% versus our previous run rate, and bang on where we're expecting it. Now, that cash from operations is before we pay for mortgage, basically. It's before we pay for mortgage on what we own or lease costs for where we lease it. So that 456 million, what did we do with it? Now, we carefully, intentionally made our plays about where we spend that. Now, we've got a significant lease portfolio and 183 million pounds of lease costs going out. And then we invested 273 million pounds in capital expenditure, essentially maintaining and innovating new assets for the future. Those are assets that we own. And this one I wanted to pull out. So 273 million pounds, that was up 68 million pounds or 33% year on year. Now, that was carefully managed, it was intentional, and it was affordable. And I wanted to bring out a couple of examples with that. And because most of us interact with the food stores, I picked some food examples. But that doesn't mean we didn't invest heavily in technology, heavily in things like depots, or do things like the new Sheffield funeral care facilities. So the three things to pull out with CapEx within food, we doubled our refits, reloads, freehold acquisitions and new stores within food, going from 40 to 82 million invested in the year. We continued our consistent investment in the Safer Colleagues, Safer Communities spend. Now, this is just the CapEx. We also invested heavily in operational costs, such as guarding. And then we also made our first tranche of rollout of electronic shelf edge labels. So intentional but affordable investments in our co-op for our future health. So that's cash from operations. Last one to cover is return on capital employed. Now, this is that sustainability metric of how much are you making compared to how much is put in. Now, this pleasingly has stepped up to 4.7% compared to the average of about 3% that we're running at. Now, you do need this to be well ahead of inflation, because if inflation pressure comes through, our returns need to be returning more so that we can keep returning that investment into the assets. I'm really pleasing to see this step up to 4.7% and eke towards a really sustainable level of return on capital employed. So that's our balance sheet measures, carefully maintained through the year, halving net debt since 2021, cash from operations stepped up by about 10% and carefully invested in the assets for our future. Those assets are making a return, and we can now see that return on capital employed start to move forward. So we've gone through the P&L, we've gone through the balance sheet, let's bring it together. This was clear progress towards our journey of profitable, sustainable growth. Like-for-like revenue up 1.5%, powered by membership. We had significant headwinds that we faced into. Despite that, our performance initiatives enabled us to move all of our P&L metrics forward, and our balance sheet strength was carefully maintained. Now, doing that, having the momentum from the P&L and the initiatives, the balance sheet strength maintained, means we can continue to face in with confidence to the significant headwinds that continue to come at us. And we know we can have momentum and resilience to be able to lean in again, offset and again, and keep making sure our amazing co-op remains financially strong, not just for now, but for the future. So that's the 2024 financials. Thank you for listening. Cheers.
So thank you to all of our speakers. I hope that helps everybody understand the performance that we had in 2024. Before the Q&A, just a reminder about voting. If you're having any trouble whatsoever, please do go to the back of the room, and Civica, the scrutineers, are there to help you. So any problem with voting, we do want to make sure we get everybody's votes in today. So it's now an opportunity to ask questions. We have had a couple of pre-submitted questions, but we have just under an hour for this, and unfortunately with the little bit of interruption we don't quite have an hour. But please do keep your questions short, and please be succinct. I have asked everybody up here to also be succinct, because we really want to hear from as many people as possible. For those who are watching online, please put your questions in the Q&A box online, and we'll do our best to cover as many as possible, because it's really important that we hear from you. Russ is going to help coordinate this session, and he's going to be reading out some of the questions that are online and some of the pre-submitted questions. If you are online and you want to ask your question live on camera, which is possible, please ensure that you use the Ask a Question Live box, and we'll pick you out at the relevant time. Now, before we take questions either in the room or online, we have had some pre-submitted questions, and I think Russ has got them. Have you got them? Yes. So we're going to take those first. So, Russ, would you like to...
Thanks, Debbie. So a couple of questions first. First question's from Leslie Ogilvie, and it's, how is the scrunchable soft plastic recycling going? Would it be possible to have some feedback? How much is usable? What are the difficulties we're facing in terms of due diligence? And then the second question is in relation to the Better Chicken commitment. And thank you for Lynn and Gary Mitchell, Colin Webster and Emma Herity in particular for this. And the questions they're asking is, why is the board referred to price and cost of living as factors in the response on the animal welfare motion?
Okay, thanks. So I do want to involve the board, because they're here representing you and supporting you. So I think, Moni, you're going to take the plastics question, and then, of course, Kate will come to you for the chicken welfare question. So, Moni.
Thanks very much, Debbie, and thank you, Leslie, for your question. I'm just going to start with a bit of background as a reminder of the context of the question. In 2021, our co-op introduced soft plastic collection points at local communities, and that was at a time when UK-wide curbside collection wasn't really in place. And we did that because we believed it was the right thing to do. What we wanted to do was to increase recyclability, to reduce litter, and to reduce the amount of soft plastic going into landfill. So the question is, how's it gone? Well, we now have 2,300 soft plastic collection points up and down the UK. Last year, in 2024, we recycled over 2,000 tonnes of polythene. And we're actually in discussion with our supplier to incorporate that material into our co-op black bin bags. No soft plastics that we collect go into landfill. or are incinerated without energy recovery, or are exported, all of which is really important to our values. About 2/3 of the material that we collect is recycled or upcycled, and that's 61% is made into bags and sacks, and about 5% goes into thermoforming film. Now, the challenge is the other 34%, which is, it's a good third, which, just for context, is made up of unrecyclable and contaminated material. And that tends to be placed by consumers in our in-store recycling bins, and quite often includes food waste and cigarettes, which is then burnt, but for energy, as opposed to recycled. And I suppose really to close, being who we are, the key thing that motivates us about continuing to do this work is that we want to make it easier for our consumers and customers, and also for our members, to make those small changes in our everyday lives that help make a difference to the natural environment that we all live in.
Thanks, Bonnie. Kate, on...
I referenced this earlier, and so I don't want to repeat myself, but actually the reason that we talk about price and the cost of living increase is twofold. So food poverty is a real issue in the UK. As of January this year, there were some 8 million people who were living in food poverty. Over and above that, the number of households that are in a financially stressed position is actually a much bigger number. When we have gone out to our members, every single time over the last 2 years, cost of living and the pressure of managing their weekly budgets and for their families is actually a cause of real concern. So when we have looked at what is the best way forward to respond to what our members want, how we balance that with British farming, sustainability, all the things I talked about this morning, we can't ignore the fact that if we went to a slower growing breed of chicken, the likelihood is that the price increase on shelf would be in excess of 30%. For people in that stressed position, that is simply too much for them to afford, particularly when chicken is the most commonly used primary protein in households. So when we look at that bigger picture, that's a big consideration, and we cannot ignore it in our decision.
Thanks, Kate. Right, Russ, now you're going to take questions in the room or online? Where are we going?
Go to one in the room first.
Yeah. So if you would like to ask a question, please put your hand up. Someone with a microphone will come to you. And please tell us who you are and sort of where you're from if you're representing a body. I can see a hand right over there. Elaine. Can someone give Elaine a microphone? Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm Elaine Dean, and I'm from Central Co-op, which is the largest independent society. So the recent cyber attack and the subsequent availability challenges faced across all societies has shown the importance of the movement standing together during challenging times. The decisions taken by the board to shut down systems may have limited the cyber attack, but the significant impact on the supply chain has shown that there are weaknesses in the business recovery plan, or Plan B. Will the board now be reviewing its operations to ensure that it has greater resilience to respond to future incidents of this scale, so that it can continue to serve its members and independent society owners?
Okay. So I'll take that question as chair of the board. Thank you, Elaine, for it. And the short answer is we will have a full learning review of what has happened with the cyber attack. But I do want to stress that the feedback that we've had from the National Cyber Security Council and from the NCA and from other people who are expert in the space is that we did probably, and I'm not sure I'm allowed to say this actually, I'm probably going to get into trouble, but I think we did a better job than others have managed to do in the circumstances. And so
But Elaine, trust me, and you do know me, and I will do what you have said. We will have a learning review. In fact, we talked about it yesterday at the board. When the time is right, we're paddling very quickly to get things back up, aren't we, Rob? So when we've got things back up, we will do a proper learning review. Very happy to do that. Thank you, Elaine. Another question in the room? Yep. Do you want to choose, Russ? Do you want to choose somebody? So, a gentleman here with his hand up. Oh, sorry, there, sorry. Okay, sorry. I was actually pointing to here. But anyway, but no, go ahead and then we'll come to you if that's okay. Yeah, thank you.
Vivian Woodell from the Mid-Counties Cooperative. I think we're the second largest independent society. Let's not argue about that. And also here as an individual member. I want to ask you a question about franchising and about your philosophy around franchising, because franchising is common in business these days. If you go into a Holiday Inn hotel, it's not run by Intercontinental Hotels Group. It's run by somebody else, usually a Chinese company. But it's designed to give people the impression that they're going into a business with the name over the door. And it's, in the world of private business, you could say it's about brand experience, and brands, of course, are about trust. But the co-op movement is also about trust, and trust in something more profound, which is that we as members own and control that business. And arguably, if you go into a co-op store, which is a franchise, it isn't owned by the co-op group, it's owned by somebody else who is making a profit out of it. So while we might be able to guarantee the brand experience, we're not actually delivering what we say we're about. I wonder if you could comment on that and outline your thinking around why franchising is something you've been expanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the... I'm going to ask Shireen to answer this, actually. So, Shireen, would you like to share your views? Thanks.
Vivian, thank you very much for asking the question. Really, I mean, franchising is giving us the ability to expand and to share our brand and our values and our amazing products in areas that we otherwise would not have been able to do. So I talked about in my speech where, we've just opened our second NHS location. What happens with a lot of our franchisees is they bring shops to us. They say, we believe in your products, we believe in what you stand for, and we'd like to work with you as a franchisee. And that's why we've been able to go into the MOD, into the NHS, into locations we and our brand and our values would otherwise not be able to reach. The other thing is, I don't agree that our franchisees don't reflect what we stand for and don't reflect our values. We're very clear on what those are. We're also very clear about the parameters within which we will work, and we're very close to our franchise partners as well as their operations, and we audit them. So there have been examples where those have not been adequate, and we've exited from those relationships. There have been few, thankfully, but we do reserve the right to do that. But for us, we want the co-op values and the co-op brand to go as far and as wide across this country as possible, and franchising is a great opportunity for expansion in areas that we otherwise wouldn't be able to access.
Thanks, Shireen. Now, there was a question here from this gentleman. If we can give him a microphone, thank you.
My name's Michael Marks. I'm from Wakefield, just an ordinary member. What I'm saying is, in the context of, I believe the organisation, you've done really well, and the level of debt reduction is absolutely magic, really. So congratulations on that. But the point I want to make is there's a lack of membership activity within the cooperative. I know we can't be like we were 50 years ago where we had a limited number of members. We've got vast membership, but it still doesn't top us undertaking membership activity in terms of campaigns, and things that you can get members behind. And that's what's missing for me in the organisation now. I feel like myself and people like me, we're just not involved other than shopping. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and I understand your concern. I'm going to take this just in the interest of time. I do understand your concern. We've tried a number of ways in the last year to get members more closely involved. In fact, I was in Edinburgh, many of the board were in other parts of the country when we did our first sort of join in live, actually pop-up event, and we got lots of great feedback from that, and we do make sure all of that feedback comes back into the business, and if it is as it relates to a campaign, I can trust you, Paul is on it, aren't you, Paul? And you'll hear from him later. Now, I am going to go to this gentleman here. Please, can we make sure he's got a microphone?
Okay. Good morning. My name is Matthew Brown. I work at the Beach Road store, the food store over in Chorlton. And my question is about the mighty security. It's ending on the 1st of June. Now, is there any ways to get that decision changed? Because before that security was in, the theft was just rife. We had people in literally like practically every minute just stealing, you know, literally walking in, you know, they'd grab like, say for example, like a tray of like lemons or something, just grabbing the whole thing and walking out. Now, since we've had the security, it's been fantastic. You know, the theft has really dropped. But since the decisions come around and say, right, well, the 1st of June it's going. Well, if you do that, I think we're just going to be back to square one. So is there any way that decision can be changed? Yeah, thank you.
Debbie, can I take that?
Yeah. So can I just say two things? Thank you for coming in today and asking your question. We really appreciate it. And Shireen is going to answer it.
Matthew, I was actually in the Chorlton store not 2 or 3 weeks ago, very, very recently, and we spoke about this issue, and I raised it with Kate specifically for Chorlton. So will you allow us to just come back to you on that one, because I know about that store. Thank you.
Okay, back to you, Russ.
Right, this is where we hope the technology works. I suppose on the day of Eurovision, we'll see if we can sort of like do the co-op version of it. So we're going to go to Sheffield, and hopefully Stephen Morgan is going to ask us a question.
Hello, Manchester from Sheffield. We're very busy here at the moment. The question is, well, I'm Stephen Morgan, a co-op member and co-op party member from Barnsley. My question is, can you tell me how will the co-op be supporting cooperatives in the UK, such as, for instance, cooperatives to provide the much-needed expansion of nursery provision? Thank you.
So I'm going to ask Shireen to answer that question. She's on it.
I'm on it. So hello. There are a couple of things that I can talk about there. First of all, when the Labour government came in, one of their pledges was to double the size of the cooperative sector. So we are working very closely with the government, with other cooperatives and with mutuals to look at specifically how we double the sector. And education and schools is absolutely one of those areas. The other thing that we're doing is we are on the Royal Foundation's Business Task Force and working with the Princess of Wales very specifically on the 0 to 5 age group. And as part of that, I've invited Mid-Counties Co-op to work with us, because for anyone who doesn't know, they run the most amazing nurseries. I use every opportunity to bring them up. And they're beautiful, they're not selective, and they're incredible. So as part of that, we have opened up our apprenticeship levy share scheme to build up a fund of £5 million to create, is it 300 or 600? I can't remember. I think it's 600 early years roles in order to be able to service that sector. I'm delighted that we're actually ahead of schedule in terms of the funding that's been provided by other organizations, and we've already created 133 roles for the early years sector. So we are absolutely on it in terms of education, in terms of early years, and in terms of building it in a cooperative way as well.
Thanks, Shireen. Russ, back to you.
Should we take another one in here and then?
Sure. Can we ask this lady here?
Hello. I'll stand. Sorry. Hi, I'm Phoebe. I am here as an independent member, but I'm also here supporting Hannah, who brought motion number 12. And I think bravely bringing this motion back to the AGM, as it would seem kind of the move to a slower growing breed isn't something that Co-op and the executive are particularly supportive of at this moment in time. I could speak to many of the points, but to follow on for the one raised regarding things like cost of living, you know, the Co-op was so forward-thinking on eggs and cages and these sorts of things, and now we can only buy free-range eggs from Co-op. And I'd like to see that same ambition with chickens. So I think the question is, why don't we have that ambition? Because in terms of cost of living, people can't come and buy barn eggs from Co-op because we've decided that actually that bottom line should be free range. And I think this is what we're asking for, is that slower growing breeds should be that bottom line. So yeah, my question is, where is maybe the ambition there? And, you know, maybe we can't implement this year, but where is that timeline? What is that going to look like going forward? Because I think it's clear that this is an issue that isn't going to go away anytime soon. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question. Kate, do you want to pick it up?
Thanks, Phoebe. When we spoke to Hannah this morning, so as I said, I am very aware and understand how passionate you are about this issue. I think I'd quite like to go back in terms of that question about ambition to our broader position on animal welfare, because when we look at it, it's not just about chickens, it is about any livestock, any living, fish included, that comes through our supply chain. So we are, again, I've spent quite a lot of time just in the last couple of weeks actually with our agri team. I think we are hugely ambitious and our track record demonstrates that. And I'd say where we have done that, every time we have made a commitment, we stick to it. And we have stuck to it through decades, not just 6 months. We won't make a commitment that we are not sure we can deliver on. But when we look at the whole breadth of animal welfare, and I feel very strongly about this, and it's one of the reasons that I am so proud to be part of our co-op, is that when we look at animal welfare across the piece, we are ambitious, we're constantly looking at it, we're always looking at new developments, our horizon scanning is second to none in terms of what other people are doing. And when we make the commitments, we'll stick to it. We're not ready at the moment on the slower growing breed, but that should not in any way make anybody question our ambition in terms of animal welfare, because it is there, it's real, and we will keep on moving it step by step forward, and we will do it in tandem, as I said, with British farming, so that we are actually investing in British farming to make sure we drive that long-lasting change. And that is what we have done over the last 20 years, more than that, and we will continue to do that.
Okay.
Right, we're going to go to a live question from Brighton, so hopefully the connectivity will work.
Oh. Go off mute. We can't hear you. Still can't.
Hi, I'm Chris Barron, member activator for West London. West London is obviously a very multi-ethnic community, very interesting community. But there's a perception that we don't sell international food. People often say to me, I don't shop at the Co-op because you don't sell our food. I'd like to ask, what are we going to do to change that perception and increase, I have noticed they've increased our range of international food, but how far are we going to go with that to make sure that perception just becomes unreal?
Okay, shall I ask Matt that question?
Definitely ask Matt that
Come
question,
on, Matt.
because I asked him
It's your
that
moment
question
of
a lot.
glory. What are we doing about international food?
I thought I was going to get through a whole AGM without any coming my way. Thank you for that question. And as part of the inclusion and diversity work that we're doing, we are very conscious that the the ranges that we sell in our stores have to fit with the demographic of the people shopping our shops. We are also very conscious that with 15, 16 million transactions every single week, we are the most shopped shop in the UK, and that is an incredibly diverse group of people coming into our shops. Rom is here somewhere, who works for me. She is doing a huge amount of work in this space about diversity of range. And equally, and because that question came from the Brighton area, Kate, who is our operations director, is standing over a project that is looking at the southeast and London in particular to make sure that we do represent all of our different customer bases across the southeast. So I can't give you specifics about numbers, but I will say that there is an incredible amount of work going on in terms of how we cater for the demographic that sits around our shops. The bit I would add to that is we naturally have a lot of information on our shops from the people that shop in them, because our member data enables us to understand those customers. What we are clear on, though, is that doesn't help us if there's a whole community who are choosing not to shop with us because we don't carry the ranges that are right for them. So the other piece of work that we're doing with property and with Insight is trying to understand exactly who are the people who live around our shops who don't necessarily shop with us because we don't carry enough of those ranges, whether it be Polish or whether it be Chinese or whether it be, or whatever it might be. So we are keen to try and make sure that even if you don't shop in our shop at the moment, we find a way of encouraging you to do so by having the range that you want.
Thanks, Matt.
Matt, you might as well stay standing up, actually, because I've got online.
You want to come up on stage, Matt?
Exactly, Matt. Question from Ian Thompson online. Can Co-op look to be even more competitive on price?
Like a pantomime response. Of course we can. We have done an inordinate amount of work over the last couple of years to try and take away what has always been the biggest barrier to convenience shopping, which is value. It is price. We have known that for a number of years. It's only over the last few years we've been brave enough to really face into it in the way that we have. You heard some of the numbers quoted earlier about just how much of our money we've invested in being cheaper for members in particular. The step that we took with the Aldi price match was so significant. Now, we will always say that actually that single piece of activity didn't cost us that much money. But the reason it didn't cost us that much money is because we've been slowly investing for a couple of years in making sure our price position is much, much better for all of our customers, but in particular our member owners. The fact that a convenience retailer, who will always be classed sometimes by some people as being more expensive, can have a discount to price match on those products that really, really matter for our members is an unbelievable sign of how much we've stepped forward in terms of our value position versus a lot of the competition. Whether you're a colleague member, whether you're a standard member, your ability now to shop with us and for it to be cheaper than, or as cheap as you can get anywhere in the market is a massive step forward for us as a business. And our ability to take away some of that negative value perception, importantly, enables us then to start talking to customers much more about what comes with being part of a co-op. And you guys in this room know that. There's a lot of people we need to educate a lot more on what that means.
Can I just add to that? I think the really important thing here is and I love this saying that the business has, which is convenience without compromise. We're not dropping prices and dropping quality. It's the same product at lower price. I think that's really, really important because not everybody does it like that, if I may say it in that way. Right, next question. Back to the audience. This gentleman here in the blue shirt. Thank you.
Hello everyone, Ryan Day from Cleethorpes. You talk about when you have the franchise stores and they have to meet a certain agreement, level of expectation for the co-op. Is there any kind of expectation for contractors working on behalf of the co-op? Because my local co-op store, which is owned by the co-op, has issues with delivery drivers constantly parking on zigzag lines for a zebra crossing immediately outside the store. I've asked the question to the drivers and, we're just picking up a co-op delivery. I've raised it to the co-op several times. I'm concerned there's going to be a major accident. Somebody could get killed. It is illegal, and then it's going to backfire, and it's going to damage the co-op's reputation. There's quite a few issues there, and it's been going round and round and round. I've sent multiple photographs to the co-op, and it stops for about 3 months, and then it continues again.
Yeah. Matt, I'm afraid that's coming to you. Yeah.
Thank you. I love the AGM because there's so many different types of questions to deal with. It's a really good question. It's not one I can give you the answer that you want here. But if you can give us the specific details of that store, then I can look into it. Of course, we have to hold everybody who represents the co-op to the same standards.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant that you can stand there and highlight that as an issue, because what I like about the question is you're thinking ahead of the negative impact of if something was to happen because of those actions, and being proactive in terms of how we never want to damage anything that could impact our co-op, but equally harm anybody. So if you can give us the specific details, and we'll make sure that we address it.
Yeah, and I can vouch for that, because we do get, not that many, but we do get quite a number of, over the course of a year, safety questions like that, particularly around traffic issues that aren't us directly, but might have a wider impact, and we absolutely follow up on every single one of them. So I know Matt will do that.
I think we take one more from the room. I've got a couple more from online.
Okay, this lady here in the black.
Hi, I'm Naresha, I'm just a member. And I just wanted to speak again about the fact that you were talking about the fact that you keep the cost of chicken reasonable for people on lower incomes by not promoting by continuing to promote Franken chickens. However, I would actually kind of counter that with why exactly should the fact that I'm on a lower income mean that I have to compromise on animal welfare and arguably compromise on quality? And then further to that, you also claim that you're trying to protect British farming, but by promoting intensive farming practices, you're actually driving a lot of kind of like smaller British farmers out of business, and kind of saying that the future of all British farming should just be intensive farming. And what with the recent judicial review as well, potentially meaning that farmers could face prosecution for raising Franken chickens, how can you continue to claim you're protecting British farmers?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I think we've actually answered the question. So I'm going to go right to the back of the room. There's a gentleman with his hand up. He's been trying very hard, I think, to get our attention.
Hiya, Nick Fletcher, colleague and member. I was really pleased with the performance in 2024, and I want to say well done to Shireen, the board and the exec on all the work. But I'm concerned about 2025. Can you quantify the loss of turnover and profit up to now, and year-end predictions due to the IT breach? Have we any indication if we could be fined by GDPR legislation? And also, as a knock-on, when we face into these headwinds, store colleagues are often very concerned that we're going to take some of the costs away out of store operations. Can you reassure them that that won't happen? Thanks.
Thank you for that really thoughtful question. I am going to go to Rachel and Dom, but I think one of the key messages to take away from today is, because of all the good work that we've done over the last few years, through the support of all of our member owners, we're actually in a more robust financial position than we might have been otherwise. And on that note, I'll turn to Rachel to continue the conversation.
And I think I'll probably
yes,
cover this
pass to
along
Dom,
with Dom
yeah.
as well. So in terms of the financial impacts, of course, we have taken a financial impact from what's happened over the last 2 weeks, and we will take a level of impact as we build back through the recovery. But I would echo what Debbie said in terms of we've taken a financial impact for that. We will carve it out, understand it, and when I talk to you in September for our half-year results, we'll show that as a non-underlying element that we can understand, and we'll target our business on the underlying, excluding that cyber incident, and help our colleagues understand how we can build back through. And because we came in with such a strong liquidity and cash position, that 420 million of cash that I talked about at the end of last year, The reason why we're so careful to maintain that balance sheet health is because when we come into something like this, that external threat that hits us, we can do that with confidence. And I could stand there shoulder to shoulder with Rob and go, you know what, we're fine, we're safe and secure, let's go for it. So we can carve that out from our results, we can take the bump in terms of our cash and liquidity, and we can keep managing our co-op through. We're not going to have to do drastic actions off the back of it because we came in so strong. So absolutely there has been some level of impact, because you can see it in terms of, you know, the crying shame that is having wonderful weather, amazing stores, a great setup, and then not being able to supply it. Absolutely. But the teams have done a great job in minimizing that wherever possible. So yes, some level of loss. We will carve that out, understand it, show it back to you at half year, but underlying is what we'll aim to manage the business on. Now, I think that covers the financial and the strength element of it, and Dom with the GDPR.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for the question. Clearly, we're absolutely devastated that that the hackers were able to get hold of member data, and that completely recognise that this is a crime against our members as much as it's a crime against our co-op. We do, of course, take GDPR incredibly seriously. We have numerous ways in which we ensure that our data and our systems are kept as secure as they possibly can. We know through our work with the NCSC and the NCA over the last few weeks that this was a particularly sophisticated and persistent attack. And I think it's fair to say that this is a huge wake-up call, that no matter what you do, we are all continually going to be vulnerable to these kinds of attacks, because they will keep getting more and more sophisticated as the protection measures improve to sort of reflect them. I think to the specific question, you know, the most important thing is that we work really closely with all of our regulators. That's not just the NCSC and the NCA, it's the ICO, it's FCA, the SRA, lots of other three-letter government bodies, but that we work as closely as we possibly can, and that we learn from anything which they want to advise us. We should expect significant amounts of investigation, but that's positive for us to be able to make sure that we're working closely with those authorities, and you know, we'll just see what they come out with. But at the moment, I don't believe there's anything which would point to us being in a particular position of fines, etc. But we'll just work with them.
Yeah, just to sort of, underline that, we have done everything from a regulatory perspective that you would expect us to do as this thing has unfortunately unfolded.
Take a couple of questions online. So the first one is from Mrs. Ramerti Bagota, which says, does the co-op plan to stop stocking Israeli produce and products? And then the second question is from Alice Banfield in our Brighton and Hove session. What plans are in place for involving younger generations in the development of our co-op?
Okay, I'm going to turn the sourcing question to Shireen. Do you want to pick that up?
So in terms of sourcing, you know that we have a motion today that hopefully everyone will be voting on, and you will have also seen the board response to that motion. So it will be advisory. We want to know what our members think on this topic, and then we are independently reviewing our sourcing anyway. So since I became CEO, we have been looking at various elements of our strategy. We have been updating it. It has been time for us to look at our sourcing strategy. So we will take that motions voting as advisory into this. The thing that I just wanted to mention is you will have seen in the board response that the way that global supply chains work today, sometimes it is not possible to know the exact source of every single thing, because products are bulked. So if you look at spices, for example, that's an example that we use. It's a global supply chain. It is bulked, it is consolidated in a different country, and then it is distributed out. So what we'd be looking at is specific products from the countries that we source from, and then taking members' advice on that basis.
Yeah. And just to sort of reinforce that, so the board have looked at the sourcing strategy a number of times this year, and we are agreeing some changes to it to ensure that it is robust as we can make it. As Shireen says, when things are bulked, it is sometimes difficult, but we do take this incredibly seriously, and wherever there is conflict, or I'm going to say bad things happening, we would not necessarily want to source from them. But you can understand that it's really, really complicated. The world, unfortunately, is global as it relates to food production. And the second question was about young people. Yeah. So some of you may not know, but I sort of think of Shireen looks after the 0 to 5-year-olds, and I look after the next generation up. So some of you will know that I've been actively involved with Rose, and I can see Rose somewhere. Where is she? I did see there she is, making sure that on a broad basis that we are working as hard as we can to engage young people in the cooperative movement in the UK. It's a really powerful part of what I think we can do with young people. We are again this year having a young people's gathering. I can't remember what we call it, Rose, but as part of Co-op's UK annual get-together. It will happen at the time of the International Cooperative movement being here. And quite frankly, if you've got any ideas to help us on this, I would really appreciate it, because it is difficult. We have 5 generations in the workplace these days, and trying to make sure that we meet everybody's needs is an ongoing challenge for all of us. So please do send me any ideas or suggestions you have about how we help move the movement forward with our young people. Thanks.
So I think we'll take one more question in the room, and then we've probably got time for one more question online.
Okay, any more questions in the room? A gentleman at the back, I think you've got a lady standing next to you. Do you have a microphone? Perfect, thank you. Sorry.
My name's Keith Jackson from Machynlleth with Wales. I'm a bit concerned about the answer from the board to motion 13, answering it in terms of sourcing of materials. When there was apartheid in South Africa, the co-op boycotted South Africa and led the boycott movement. Why doesn't it have the ambition, when there is boycott in Israel and Palestine, to follow the same practice? This is not just another conflict abroad. International community, the United Nations, the International Criminal Courts, and most of the world outside Europe and America see that as a historic occasion significant to apartheid in South Africa. Why can't the co-op lead a boycott campaign and gain, I assure you, in my part of the world, it would gain customers from that, because people do join the co-op because of what it stands for. And there is nothing in the world as important at the moment in terms of the human race, except climate change, than the apartheid and genocide in Gaza.
Some of you will know that I am Palestinian on my father's side, so I am very, very clear on what's happening in Palestine at the moment and in Gaza. So putting that to one side, I'll now respond as the CEO of the co-op. What we need to do is we need to hear these views from our members. We need to understand where our members stand, and we need to look at our sourcing policy, which is across all the countries that we deal with, that we trade with, and we need to look at whether they match our values or not. Israel is one of those countries, but we're looking at all of those countries together. And we will commit to you to coming back in the summer with a decision on who we are trading with and who we will not be trading with. So if you can just let us do that, if you can please vote and give us your views, I'd appreciate it. My comment on the bulking has to stand, though, because you can't always trace these things unless you decide to set up your own cumin farm, for example, and your own shipping lines. So we have to kind of balance all of that out. But please vote, please give us your views, and we will commit to coming back to you. But please don't think we don't understand the situation there.
Yeah. I can say, unlike probably a lot of boards in the UK, we discuss this topic, I think, probably at almost every board meeting to make sure that we get to the right answer and the answer that our members want. So we absolutely are taking this very seriously. I think we've got one...
I think we've got probably
One more question.
One more question and one more in the room, depending on how quickly this is asked.
12 o'clock, I'm afraid.
Oh, okay. All right, this is the last question. Okay, so question from Mr. Scott Lee Montgomery. How can we ask for food products to be how can we ask for products to be considered for stocking in our local food store? Matt.
Trying to think how to answer that. So we have to do an incredible amount of range, and you can imagine how often this is one of those questions that comes up whenever we're walking around stores. And I can hear Kate in my ear, we don't do a good enough job at the moment of really talking to all of our store colleagues and really understanding where some of those gaps and some of those opportunities are. That is something that Kate and her team are incredibly passionate about, and it is something we're trying to build into our ways of working. I have to balance that with the fact that when you are running as many shops as we are, we have to let the systems do what the systems need to do. We invest heavily in having these ways of making sure that the right products are in the right stores. However, it is a brilliant question, because we know that the people who understand our shops, the people who understand our communities better than anybody else are the guys who run the shops. So I completely agree with the question. It is something we are looking at in terms of how we get closer to that.
Brilliant.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Russ. Thank you to everybody who has answered, and thank you to all of you who've asked questions. We have some really important visitors with us here today on topics which you, our member owners, have asked us to discuss. But if you haven't had your question answered, you've not been able to ask it, please do email it to the AGM team by the end of today, and we will get a response out to you as soon as we can. So we're now ready to move into our final session of the day, our members' discussion. Paul Gerard, who I think all of you know, our Director of Campaigns, Public Affairs and Policy, will be leading this session. But we want to start with a short video. Actually, before I start the video, I've got to say voting has closed, so it is 12 o'clock. Thank you all, to everyone who's voted today. But we're going to start with a short video now, and the board will take their seats in the audience, and Paul and his really important guests are going to come on the stage. Thank you, Paul.
As a Jewish woman, I cannot imagine my life without my Palestinian neighbors. Hi. Explain to someone who doesn't know anything about the village, what is the village?
So Oasis of Peace, Wahat al-Salam, Neve Shalom. It's a small village based between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. We have Arab, Jewish, old, young, that choose to live together, Palestinian and Israelis. They left everything behind and make this choice.
I remember when we first got to the village, it was in the 90s, and my parents obviously were peace activists, and they moved to the community in order to be part of this alternative. And they wanted me and my brother to grow up in a different way. I came from a school where there was Hebrew. On the walls, there were only the Jewish holidays. And suddenly I moved to a school where my teacher is speaking to me Hebrew and Arabic. The Palestinian narrative is being taught to me as well as the Israeli narrative. We are so segregated. Israelis and Palestinians are segregated. When people hear that I grew up with Palestinians, they're like, what?
You know that when I moved to the village 24 years ago, I'm originally from the north, as most of the Palestinians inside Israel. My parents thought that this is like a phase, that, you know, I will come back home.
The one thing I want people to know about the village is that it is not a kumbaya thing, and it is hard. It's not popular. It's a constant struggle to try and build an alternative.
Lots of people think that we agree about everything, but we don't, you know, because democracy is hard. I think the most amazing thing is that we exist, and there is a waiting list to join the community. Now we have about 300 kids in our education system. We are celebrating this year 40 years of establishing our first bilingual, binational school in the region in '84. There was a small, article in the newspaper about this initiative, and nobody believed that it's gonna stay.
How many years is it this year?
40 years.
Oh, I'm so old. Oh my God.
Yeah, you came and you were 7?
I was 7 years old, yeah.
Now we have thousands of graduates, including you, my 3 boys, and they are everywhere. And we are celebrating the next 40 years of educating for peace, and this is what we do best, and I'm very proud to be part of this. So the School for Peace, it's this education institution who train the adults, train teachers, students, different professionals who Arab and Jewish who want to talk to each other about the conflict and how they can promote peace in their profession.
I think that one of the biggest blessings in my life has been that I grew up with Palestinians, and my childhood has been blessed with Palestinian teachers and neighbors and friends.
What we are trying to do is to build this shared life and to convince the world that peace is possible.
Love you.
Sure.
Good afternoon, fellow cooperators. As Debbie said, I'm Paul Jarrett. I'm your Campaign Public Affairs and Policy Director at the Co-op Group. It's not the first time I've seen that film. It still has the same effect on me. It's inspiring, it's humbling, and it's, I think, also challenging for us all. Please keep that film in mind. I'm just going to explain how this session is going to work, the first bit and the second bit. As Debbie said, this part of our AGM is where we want to hear more from you about what you care about, what worries you. We want to understand more why it worries you, why you care about it, and we want to understand more about what you want your co-op to do. Literally tens of thousands of members have filled out the big survey this year, as they did last year, and we've identified, as Debbie said before, 3 areas that are of a particular concern: conflict, climate, and skills and opportunities. Now, for those who had the dubious pleasure of hearing me last year, we're going to ask the same questions, which is, what do you think, what does that issue mean to you? What change do you want to see? And what role do you want your co-op to play in that change? Now, the film you just saw a few moments ago, I think, was as powerful a testimony as you can get of the role of, even in the most difficult of conditions, as Sam has said, peace is possible, and cooperation, both organisationally and as a behaviour, plays a critical role in that. So the first topic that we are going to cover is conflict and the role cooperating and cooperatives can play in building peace. Now, before I come to you, you've seen that I have some guests with me on the stage, and we're going to have a conversation here to help set up and perhaps inform some of your thoughts. I'm delighted to welcome, first of all, I have Gareth Harper and Jim Fitzpatrick, who are from Peace Players in Northern Ireland, and you'll find a bit more about them in a second. And also we have Sama Salem and Nur Sharon, who are from Waha al-Salam Neve Shalom, which is the village that you've just seen in the film. Okay, I'm going to come first to Jim. What is Peace Players and what are you trying to achieve?
Okay, well, Peace Players is a charity in Northern Ireland. We're also in different parts of the world, including in the Middle East and South Africa, and also now have a program in the United States as well. Basically what we do is we use basketball, we use sport to bring kids together who come from separated and divided communities, who are maybe living in communities scarred by conflict and hate, and teach them that if they work together and combined sporting activities with basketball, that they can learn to play together and they can learn to live together over the long term. I'm actually on the board. Gareth's the guy in charge. He's the MD. I'm a volunteer, but I'm a journalist by trade. And I think the thing that jumped out at me from that video was the line about it's not just kumbaya. This is hard work. And it's hard work in Northern Ireland day and daily. And I'm a journalist by trade. Therefore, I'm cynical. I ask questions. And what got me into Peace Players was having covered one of the most really sort of disturbing inter-community conflicts that I'd seen back in 2001 when we had a dispute on territory where there were 2 primary schools for young children, and a protest grew up which involved grown men at one stage hurling blast bombs, vile abuse of young children going to school each day, lines of police just to get young kids into school because there was a community conflict over a Catholic school and a Protestant school. This was after the sort of official troubles, if you like, had stopped in Northern Ireland, but we still had this deep-seated community conflict ongoing and erupting at different times in different parts of Northern Ireland, different parts of the city. So I went to investigate that at the time. I covered that as a story as a journalist, reported on it in different ways, was there on the ground. And then when I discovered a couple of years later that there were these guys who'd taken these kids, those communities where this hatred had been so visceral, and the kids were now playing in combined and integrated sports teams. They were actually going off on a trip to the US on an integrated team. I was actually a little bit skeptical, went up to investigate, discovered what was real, put a proposal together to do a TV programme on it. The TV programme wasn't actually commissioned, but what happened was Gareth wrote me onto the board, and I've been stuck ever since. But it's a great organisation. I'm delighted to be involved in it. 20 years later, we have girls who were at those schools, involved. They may have been witnessing what was happening at that time, seeing the hatred, who went through our programme, who went through it at different stages from primary school onwards, and have come back as coaches and young leaders, working with the next generation of kids to ensure that it doesn't ever happen again.
Thank you, Gareth. And as someone who knows a little bit about what's been happening in Northern Ireland, it's a remarkable thing that you do. If I can turn back to what Al-Salam Never Shalom, Sam, we've seen the film about what Al-Salam Never Shalom is about, but can you tell us what you think you're trying to show through the work that you do at the village?
Well, maybe because I'm surrounded here by players and sport, I will take something from your experience. That I believe that the peace is like a big muscle that we have to train all the time. And our village is peace gym. If we neglect the negotiation, we stop talking to each other and stop the dialogue, we will end up with segregation. If we stop talking about the future, we will be trapped in the past. And if we stop struggling to bring peace to this world, we will end up with our kids fighting and killing each other. Wahed al-Salam Neve Shalom is one small, very courageous example to this word that peace is not only possible, it's the only way that can ensure decent, peaceful life for the Israelis and the Palestinians. And what's happening with the news, and we are here, this is 1 week in London and Manchester promoting the peace agenda and the peace work that we do. And in the background, we hear the news and what's happening in Gaza. For us, it's devastating that we know the path. We know for the last 50 years what have to be done. We learn from other conflicts around the world what have to be done. What Oasis of Peace is trying to send this word, that peace is possible. We have to try very hard. It's ongoing struggle and education process that take time, take faith building, and take lots of support from the outside world. People fight and war and kill each other with the intervention and the support of the outside international community. And I believe that the peace builders, the peace workers, peacemakers in our region, Palestinian and Israeli, also need the whole and every support from the international community. And that's why we are here today in this amazing gathering to try to rebuild and to try to communicate, to collaborate with our potential partners for this ongoing process to bring peace to our region.
Thank you, Sama. If I can stay with the village for a moment. I think Noam said in the film, this isn't all come by and easy, and Gareth said, sorry, Jim said the same, and Sama. what does, when you say it's hard, what does that look like? And what does the role of cooperating, working together, play in tackling those challenges?
I think that growing up in Israel and living the segregated society give you some conceptions in your mind that you need to break, and some barrier that you need to, and locks that you need to unlock. And there are a lot of mixed city in Israel, we call them, where there is Palestinian and Jewish living together, but living together or being side by side is not a cooperation. And I think for me and Samach, we co-running the education system in the village. It means that we are partners and equal partners. And I think that the cooperation aspect of it is that we know that we need to make decisions together, and we need to look at the future and imagine it together. And looking at my Palestinian peers as equal to me means that we can live together at the end, and we can show a different future for this region.
Thank you. Gareth, basketball's a team game. I demonstrated before it's not my game. And, you know, teams who win work together. So I guess the point of sport in this context is to demonstrate that cooperation is, in that behavioural sense, is absolutely central to what you do.
100%. Peace Players' mantra across the world is children who play together can learn to live together. It's not rocket science, not difficult to understand, but really, really powerful and really, really impactful. I have the pleasure of taking an American sport, which by no means am I an expert at, but using an American sport very intentionally in Northern Ireland as a sport which is perceived to be neutral. So it means kids from both traditions can come together, play a sport that's neutral. It's American. They love all things American as well. They grew up on the Disney Channel. They love the high fives, all that culture thing. But the important thing about it, it's just a safe space. It creates a safe space for children from the historically divided traditions in Northern Ireland to come together. So we're 27 years after the signing of the Good Friday Agreement, so we have peace in Northern Ireland. We have a peace process. We have lots of money being invested in that. But still, 92% of the kids in Northern Ireland still get educated separately. So they attend either a predominantly Protestant or a predominantly Catholic primary school. So our program, really simple, it just creates a safe space on a basketball court where those kids can develop relationships. First is teammates, on the very simple premise, if my team's to be successful, I have to cooperate, I have to get along, and I have to be able to work with the teammates from the different tradition. And our role as an organisation is basically to try and leverage those relationships that develop on the basketball court as teammates to develop real friendships outside of Peace Players and outside of the work that we do. We talk about being in the business of creating the next generation of peace builders. So I'm grey hair now, so I'm old, but the next generation of young people in Northern Ireland are coming through and they're asking for something different. So that our biggest challenge there now is it's not necessarily with the young people themselves, they're asking for something else. It's my generation and the generation just beneath me who carry the baggage and the first-hand experience of the troubles with them. And they offload that baggage onto the younger generations. So we have kids coming to our program as young as 7 and 8 years old who display sectarian language. Not necessarily understanding it, but it's something they've learned and picked up from adults and other significant adults and influences in their lives. But the one thing we talk about and where there's real opportunity is because that attitude has been learned, it's much more easy to unlearn it if they get a positive experience of somebody from the other tradition. So our work is very much about creating those safe spaces.
Thank you. And again, I've had the great privilege to learn a bit more about both Peace Players and indeed Al-Islam Nevi Shalom. It is genuinely inspiring and humbling, all of what you do. If I can stay with you, Gareth, you're not as old as me, so I wouldn't get too worried just yet. But having lived through the troubles, and as you said, there is now a peace process. But it's difficult and it's challenging. I think we've heard from all of you how challenging it can be. What gives you hope for the future, for peace in Northern Ireland?
My biggest hope is the young people themselves. I've been involved with Peace Players for over 15 years now, And there's not a day I go into work that I don't learn something new from the young people that we work with. They're the experts in being young people. They're the experts that are going to come up with the next solution of how we continue to build and grow in the peace that we have there, how we sustain it into the future. That's my real hope. Jim talked about the Holy Cross dispute back in 2001. And if you check out our website, you'll see two of our young people on there, and they talk about this much better than I do, AJ and Rachel, who went to those schools on either side of the road, were part of that dispute back in the day, but who are now firm friends, and they've actually come back and they coach with peace players. So our job is to try and create the next generation of young people that will take this work to the next level. AJ and Rachel are a great example of that. They grew up in that divided community. They went to separate primary schools, developed relationships playing basketball playing basketball with peace players and on the court. Came back, we trained them up to become coaches, and now they're back working in those very communities that they're from themselves, doing the work and supporting the next generation of peers come through. And young people in those areas, they're not going to want to listen to me. They'll want to listen to people from their areas. So that's really important for us. For me, the hope is with our young people, but it's also with that next generation of peace builders who'll take this work to the next level.
Thank you. I'm going to stay with Peace Pledge for a second. Jim, is there anything you can add to that?
In terms of the hope, I suppose, again, just it's easy to lose hope a little bit in today's world when you see the conflicts around the world. And, you know, as a journalist, I've covered, as I say, the troubles in Northern Ireland. I've looked at international stuff as well with kind of investigations. I've been lucky enough to interview big people on the political stage as well. And I remember one time I got a chance to interview President Clinton after he'd left, just after he left office, and he brought his memoirs out. It was a big thing to get this interview. I'd pushed very hard to get it, and I needed to get some good stuff out of him. It was for the BBC. And I wanted to know why he'd stuck his neck out to get involved in the Northern Ireland peace process, because he got a lot of flack from his own people at the time. He'd gone against some key people in his administration to get involved directly in the Northern Ireland peace process. And I pushed him hard on that issue because I wanted to know what his real motivation was. And he came up with a few answers to start with, which I didn't quite buy, and pushed it a bit harder. And then eventually he said, well, look, here's the deal. If you're a president and you've got political capital, you can only spend it at certain times. I decided it was worth my while to spend a little bit of my political capital on this process because it looked to me as if it was fixable. It was Northern Ireland at that time, part of both the UK and Ireland were part of Europe. It was reasonably well off. Both sponsor countries, if you like, wanted it to be solved. The parties were moving towards some form of resolution. He thought if he could just give it a little bit of push with his interventions, then it was worth him taking the risk because he could use it as an example to the rest of the world. And of course, we know that he tried hard with the Middle East and didn't quite succeed due to various other issues there. But at least it provided a little bit of hope. And it still does. So it's not perfect, and that's why we're still there doing the stuff, and the guys on the ground day and daily have to do the groundwork to make sure that we can keep building and sustaining that peace. But at least we can give a little bit of hope as a process that kind of has had some good results. It's by no means perfect. We keep working at it. But when we see the terrible things happening elsewhere in the world, we take hope from what you're doing. We take hope, but we hope that to some extent what we do can provide a little bit of hope elsewhere too.
Thank you. And I'm going to come to Sama and we'll start with Sama. Sama, what keeps you going when it's hard? And we've spoken a number of times now, and I know there's plenty of hard times. What keeps you going when it's hard?
Well, lots of people ask this question, like how we didn't give up yet about the partnership, the peace process, and the collaboration and cooperation was happening in our community on a daily basis. And it's always my answer, like that hope is not an option, like it's not something that we can choose to have or not choose to have. Optimism and hope is an essential tool of our toolkit as a peace activist, as a feminist myself, is to believe that the change will come. And I am playing a small role of what's happening. What gives me hope is the success stories. What gives me hope is the little kids on the playground, in the school that we build. What gives me hope is the waiting list for families, Palestinians, Israelis who want to join Wahd al-Salam, Oasis of Peace. What gives me hope you people, you show up here and spend your Saturday morning with us trying to help and want to support. And what gives me hope is the potential partnership everywhere around the world. That feeling that we are not alone in this fight, in this battle. What gives me hope is my 3 boys who was waiting for me home, and they decided to stay and to live and to graduate from our bilingual, binational peace education system. So the hope is a tool, is something that we choose every morning to go to the work and to meet Nir and the staff and to keep going. And I don't know if you heard in the news, but last week we have the biggest peace summit in Israel, Palestine, with 60 other peace organizations. Thousands show up. And the day that I will lose the last potential partner around the world, I will give up. Meanwhile, hope is on my purse, in my heart, in my mind, and this is what keep us going.
Thank you. No. No? Anything?
Yeah, I always say I'm going with Samach. I need to speak before her because it's very difficult to speak after her.
But remember that the Palestinian always have the punchline.
That's true as well. I would say one sentence in regard to this. Desperation is not a modus operandi. Like hope, like I wouldn't be still living anywhere in Israel if I wouldn't have hope that these things and the conflict and what's going on, the horrifics that's going on in Gaza and the West Bank would change. So if I wouldn't have this hope, if I wouldn't have the cooperation with Samach and the belief that what we are doing matter, then I go to Madagascar or something, I don't know.
Thank you. Can I ask you all, please, to thank Sama, Gareth, Ner and Jim for joining us and sharing what their amazing organisations do and the role that cooperating play. Thank you. Thank you. Hopefully that helps to set up this bit of the AGM. We've got 3 topics to cover. The first one we're going to cover, obviously, will be conflict. And in the surveys that we ran last year and this year, and in all the conversations that we've had with members, this is something that members really care about. And it's not surprising members care about it, because wherever you look in the world, there are times when you can lose hope. And so hearing people like Sama and Ner and Gareth and Jim have hope, I think is powerful. 1 in 4 people in the world live in a conflict zone. 300 million people in the world need humanitarian aid to get through a day. But, and there's a but here, there's a quote there, that quote's from a co-op in Rwanda, the Buranga Cooperative. In that cooperative, because cooperatives have got open and voluntary membership, every individual in there included perpetrators and victims. And yet they came together around a shared goal to bring their assets together, their talents together, to make their lives better. So co-ops can play a part in peace, and have played a part in peace, and can play a part in peace. So these questions, some of you may remember from last time, you can see them on the screen there. This isn't the Q&A. I'm not the Wizard of Oz who's going to come up with the answers, far from it. But we are interested in what you think. We are interested in your observations, your ideas, your feelings about this topic and the role that your co-op can play. So I'm looking for people in the room to make that contribution. I'd ask you to be succinct. I'd ask you to introduce yourself. And hopefully you've got some thoughts on these issues. If you've not, it's a quick conversation. But I'm hoping it's not a quick conversation. I'm hoping I'm going to have to cut it short. So just put your hand up. We'll get a microphone to you, and we will have as many comments as we can. Can we go to the lady in the middle? And apologies, my eyesight is shocking these days. Yes.
Sorry, I'm very, very nervous about standing up and speaking. I'm an individual member of the co-op and I'm Jewish, and I've got nothing against initiatives that bring people together to understand each other. But the elephant in the room is the huge power imbalance between Israel and Palestine. Enormous. Israel is one of the most heavily armed countries in the world, backed by the US, backed by our government. I think it's good people learn to understand each other and see that we're all humans, but we can't pretend that this isn't the situation. Nothing can really change at root until the occupation ends, plus the ethnic cleansing and the genocide. That's all an inevitable part of it, and has been since the Nakba 77 years ago. Our motion 13, which I support, is part of this struggle, using boycott as a peaceful means to affect such a powerful government with such ridiculously powerful allies. So actually I feel very dismayed by this being the focus of this discussion, much as I don't want to decry people trying to live together and understand each other. It's not what this is about at the moment. There's a genocide going on and 2 million people starving. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you. You may have been nervous, but you spoke exceptionally well, and thank you for doing so. I'm going to go to the gentleman at the back, please, if I can.
Hello, Paul. Hello. It's not Congress, is it? It's the AGM.
It's the AGM here.
Hello,
it's the AGM here.
Yeah, from Nottingham, Ian Hewitt. Peace can be quite dangerous. I found myself this year debarred from politically representing the biggest engineering union for raising a motion that sought to redirect expenditure on arms into socially useful, and had to use my other union, which is the UCU, Universities and College Union, to continue my role as the climate officer on Knott's Trades Council. So, UCU held a conference in Nottingham, at Nottingham University, where educators, university lecturers from Gaza spoke in the middle of the conflict zone. So universities are being targeted. In fact, they've all been destroyed now, but university lecturers are being taken out. I mean, murdered, because there's an attempt to destroy the educational structures. And it's difficult to educate people when you deny them access to any formal education. So we need to recognise that, and I think we should be supporting those brave people that are trying to continue educating amongst the rubble and amongst a very hostile environment. The other thing I want to identify is that the settlements are actually constituted, as I understand it, as community co-ops. And the way the law works was changed. I don't know if you remember, but in Israel there was nearly a civil war 18 months ago, 2 years ago. And one of the legal changes was that the community co-ops could be formed with up to 200 people, utterly denying any membership to people that actually lived on the land. So the settlements were moved in illegally, and then the people that lived there weren't allowed to join the cooperative. Now, I think we need to hold those people, the Zionist community, to account against our values and principles. We shouldn't let it go, because nobody seems to be interested in this. I did post it on our favourite Facebook group, but there's been no response. Now, I think it's absolutely shocking, and they really need to be hauled up. So, yeah.
Thank you, Ian.
Be peaceful, but don't expect an easy ride, because being peaceful is very dangerous.
Thank you, Ian. And I think there is something very powerful. So it has always struck me that often in conflicts around the world, you don't hear from the peace builders. You don't hear from the ones who do the work, the dangerous work often, to try to build peace and to reach out across communities. That's why we've given the platform today to the two organisations we have who we've worked with, and will continue to do so. Thank you, Ian. Other observations, I've got one here, I've got two here, and I've got one there. Can we come to the two here first, please? And then I'll go to that one in 1 second.
Hello, my name is Maggie Mancy. I'm from London. I was really interested to see that Northern Ireland was mentioned today, because I can remember with the Northern Ireland Troubles, Ian Paisley saying never, 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 and I never thought in my lifetime I'd see that area of the world have peace. So I think it's good that I guess we all have hope for the Middle East. Now, I partly agree with the lady at the back who said that the initiatives, the power, the Oasis of Peace and the Peace Players, they're fantastic initiatives, and I think that's the kind of next stage, because I think we're a stage back from that, because at the moment it's a crisis, an absolute crisis, and I'm just wondering, of the guests, what would you like the co-op to do? Because I think it's generally agreed that BDS, boycotting Israeli products is, among activists, that's the most constructive thing. And in terms of how do members feel, I would say that members, I know I do, and other members I've spoken to, they feel powerless. And if they feel powerless, they expect their leaders with values to take action. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Tom.
Tom Lang, National Members Council North West. I'm really glad we talked about Northern Ireland as an area, and really what I want to see our co-op do a lot more of is putting on the member events we've done elsewhere and making sure that they're also highlighted and platformed in Northern Ireland, so that we can bring our members in Northern Ireland from both communities together so that they can celebrate the fact they are both co-owners of our fantastic business, and that's what we should be talking about, and that's partly how we can play our role on the ground in continuing to build peace in Northern Ireland.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Gentleman there.
Hello. I'd just like to talk about, I'm an ex-serviceman who served twice in Northern Ireland. And it was interesting. I've been coming to these meetings now with whether they were GMX and things like that, and I always love the fact that I'm amongst people who put people before money. And never have I been so proud than today. And to see them four people talking about the present world. When I was in Northern Ireland, I always thought you just couldn't wish to meet nicer people. Both sides. I was there in 1969 and I was there in 1974. And when I was there in 1974, I looked down on top of a bomb. And as you can see, it's an happy ending. But both times when I was in Northern Ireland, I always thought to myself, 90% of these people just want to live in peace. All they want to do is bring their families up. You know, support their children and get them a better life. And thankfully, we ended up with an agreement. So I said to the two people from the Middle East, you never know. The peace is out there somewhere. Unfortunately, to me, both conflicts go back to the 1920s and before. The Middle East one, I'm of an age, I remember the 1967 conflict. I remember the Yom Kippur one. And in them days, Israel was fighting against Arab countries. And my sympathies were with Israel, because Israel was being told they didn't have the right to exist by Arab countries. We've overcome that now, but now we've got a terrorist organisation whose pure aim is the annihilation of Israel. And we've got an Israeli Prime Minister who doesn't think that Palestine should exist. My personal view, like a lot of people in the international community are saying, is that the only solution to the Middle East is a two-state solution. It's got to be, the people from Gaza have got as much right to their little plot of land on this planet of ours as what the Israelis have.
Thank you. I'm going to have to draw you to a close.
Fair
But
comment.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I couldn't agree more about people from Northern Ireland, but my wife is from Belfast, so I had to say that. Can we move on to the next topic, which is climate? Some facts and figures up there. The one I just want to draw your attention to is that bottom one. I had the privilege with some colleagues, Rachel and Heather and Rom and others, of going to Kenya to see what the impact of our work is, both the impact of climate change and the impact of our work through the One Water Foundation was. And I've seen personally the difference our co-op can make. Climate, I think Ian referred to it earlier, it's a fundamental existential issue for the world. Same questions, same gig. Put your hands up. We'd like to hear more from you, please. I'm looking for a hand. I've got a hand. Thank you very much. Otherwise, it could have been very quiet. If you've also got questions, please put your hand up. We will come. Thank you.
Hello, thank you. I'm Myra James from Thirsk in North Yorkshire. Quite a brief point I want to make. Any discussion of climate must also include nature and biodiversity, because climate and nature are the intertwined elements of the crisis we all face. That's all I wanted to say. Never forget nature.
Thank you. It's a really good point. And one of the facts that I didn't have a chance to reference there was the effect of peat. And if you lose peat, that's a huge impact on climate justice. I'm going to come here, please. Thank you. One there.
Thank you very much. Nick Matthews, Heart of England Cooperative Society. We've got a very proud record. I'm saying this in context of Matt's comments about keeping prices under control. But I think we've got a proud record of supporting fair trade producers, particularly cooperatives in the Caribbean, in Africa and in South America. I think that in these areas are probably the most vulnerable to climate change. If you look at what's happening in the banana sector at the moment, most of the places we procure our bananas from are really stressed by the climate. So I think we've got to, whilst we've got to be conscious about keeping the prices under control, we're going to have to think very carefully about enhancing some of that fair trade premium so that the problems they're facing in terms of sustaining agriculture in these places, given the changes in the climate, through our supply chain. And just as a last comment, really on the previous conversation, we're a cooperative retailer. We distribute and buy and sell stuff. Surely, if we obviously got to stop buying stuff from Israel, it's just wrong. But equally, we should have a pro-cot, if there's such a word, to ensure that we sustain and buy Palestinian products with our European colleagues and other colleagues around the world who are prepared to take those products from Palestine, so we can support and help to create a viable Palestinian economy so there can be a viable Palestinian state.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you. I had another hand up. I had more than one lady here. And I think then can we go to the gentleman at the back? So the lady here with the black shirt on, black t-shirt on.
Hi, my name's Sarah Nicol. I just wanted to say, if we're talking about the climate and climate change, we have to talk about how important vegan options are, because it's actually the most important thing you can do for the environment, unless you've got a private jet. So I just wanted to thank the co-op for their vegan options, and I just wanted to say that I hope that those continue to improve and increase. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Got time for probably one or two more. At the back, please, again.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. The climate is, it takes some doing to stay with the news that keeps coming through. recently I learned that the CO2 concentrations in the atmosphere are accelerating. So 2024, there was more CO2 went into the atmosphere than at any time in the past. So we've got a problem. And what's coming up in November in Brazil is COP30. Now, locally, our Extinction Rebellion people called it COP-out. But it's the only time that the global leaders get together. And it is in Brazil, and that does provide perhaps an arena where our message can go through, especially in the International Year of Co-ops. So I think we should try to make a big thing about COP30. In Nottingham, the Green Festival is our big event, and we've recently realised that we really need woodcraft folk, because woodcraft folk are great at getting kids involved, and environment is one of their strongest themes, as is peace. So promoting the woodcraft folk is a really good way of rebuilding our movement and educating people and getting people on board. And I can't read my own writing.
Ian, I'm conscious of time.
Oh, yeah,
be quick then.
Sorry, finally.
It's okay.
What we're looking for is some sponsorship from the bank, because I think the bank, now it's become a mutual again. I think that it would be really good that they get their message out, and we in Nottingham are quite happy to do that with them.
Thank you. I can't speak for the bank, but I'm sure they can speak for themselves. Thank you. I'm going to move us on. I don't see any more hands. I'm going to move us on. Last topic, skills and opportunity. Some stats up there. I'm going to add one more to the list. You can read them while I'm speaking. A kid from a lower socio-economic background is twice as likely to end up in a manual job than a kid from a more privileged background. That has got nothing to do with either kid's skills. It's got entirely to do with where they started. So again, same three questions. What do you want the co-op to do? Sorry, why is this important? What do you think the co-op can do? So again, I'm looking for hands in the room, please. Gentleman at the back, right in the middle. Other hands, please put them up and I'll try to get to you.
Great, thank you. My name is Yassine. I'm on the National Members Council from the North East in Newcastle. So as a young member, I'm impressed by the work the co-op has done on social mobility and bringing young people's voices into decision making. I think across everything we've talked about today, the one thing that we need is not just more opportunities to participate, but also to develop the skills needed to be able to take effective individual and collective actions. This is core to who we are as a co-op, and it guides our values. So my questions and thoughts for our members is, how can we connect all of our communications and activities together with ways to learn, information that you can take away and use day to day, and chances to gain experience or be part of change? Thank you.
Thank you, Yassine. Really good challenge for us all. Thank you. I'm going to come to the lady there. I can see a yellow top.
Hello, I'm Rita Machin. I'm a member from Chorlton. Mine's just a comment. My father was a bricklayer, and I'm very proud of it. And I do get very sick and tired of the adulation of degrees and people saying my daughter's gone to university. Nothing wrong in going to university. But I do honestly think it's about time we began to regard people who are tradespeople or manual workers with more respect.
Thank you. I'll allow myself a personal comment, and I couldn't agree more. Gentlemen, yeah, my eyesight, apologies. I'm going to have to get different glasses.
Hiya, so my name's Tommy Kirkwood. I'm originally from Manchester myself, but I now live across the Fylde coast. I just wanted to say a few words to do with sort of youth work. I'm a passionate example of why youth work works. Big thank to Rose from Co-ops UK and Rebecca Blakesley, who's over there from the Young Members Group. And I just want to say I'm now running my own provision in Blackpool, specifically for LGBTQ young people. And the brilliant thing about youth work is it can teach young people things in an informal way. So, for example, a lot of my young people are still not receiving statutory education in PSHE, and we're working to sort of resolve that with young people. But just something that I'd like the co-op to do, if it was at all possible, is to help increase the investment into youth work and more things, because it is a brilliant example of what we can do to better society. And it also reduces knife crime, which needs to be said as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy. Thank you. Can we come to the lady here? Can I see other hands if you want to make a contribution? The lady here.
My name's Janet Morley and I'm a local person from Didsbury. And I started work when I was 15. And I started off in local government and then progressed to working for a solicitor and then progressed to working in banking for 41 years. I didn't retire till I was 64. So I want to say I did all in-house qualifications. It was a need because I wanted to better my life and I was 15 years of age. I'm now 74 and I want to say if the co-op could do the same thing with, it was spoken before by the lady before saying about the young people, if they could work experience or something like that or a different name for it just so that the co-op can pay them while they're progressing through the system. I think that would be, that's what I would like to happen with a co-op, to progress with the young people and give them a chance, you know, to better their lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Gentleman here. I've got time for one or two more of you quick on the back.
Hi, Derek Barker from the Members' Council. I'd like to support what the lady said just now about taking away the stigma that seems to be attached to the word manual labour. I think it's really, I'm disappointed in the way it was presented on the scheme because it assumes that there was a problem with manual labour. Moving on from that, I think co-op could do a lot more towards apprenticeships. I think it's the one gap in education in this country over the last 20 years which has been sadly omitted, and I think we could do a lot more. And in that respect, my local store has some fabulous staff that I really enjoy talking to. I'm not sure they're aware that there's a career in, that it's not a job, that there could be a career in co-op. So let's try and promote that more.
Certainly. And I think it's interesting that certainly the work that Claire, my colleague Claire Castell and the people team do, phenomenal apprenticeship offers. So perhaps we need to talk more about that, about our internal offers as much as anything else. One more question. There's a hand right at the back. Yes, please.
Hi. Claire Pennell, I'm on the members. Sorry, I'm getting some feedback.
We can hear you fine.
Is that all right?
Perfect.
I'm just wondering, just thinking about the point that's just been made, whether the co-op can offer safe spaces for people with additional needs to get more work experience, placements across the settings, not just within the food environment.
Thank you. I think there's stuff that we have done, but rather than say it's not a Q&A, so we've clocked that. I am going to have to close us now. If you haven't had a chance to make a contribution, I know there were a couple of hands at the end, apologies, just email us. All the things that have been said today we have captured and we will take back in and we will begin to work again. The final point before I hand back to Debbie is this. What members said last year in this conversation and what he said in the survey has impacted and shaped what we are now doing. The most obvious example is the Peace and Cooperation campaign. So what you've said today, we will take away, we will look at, and we will again build that into what we are doing, because when we say owned by you, right by you, we mean it, because we do and try to deliver what our members want us to do for the long-term health of our society. Thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you found that, again, a useful and interesting conversation and an opportunity to help shape your co-op. I will now hand back to our chair, Debbie.
So thank you all for sharing your views and your insights and your questions and perspectives. It is really, really important to us that we hear from you. And as you know, there are multiple ways that we do take your insight into consideration, but actually seeing and hearing it live, for some of us, that's really, really helpful, and I just encourage you to keep doing it. So we, on behalf of everyone here, the board and the op board, we will take your feedback away. As Paul has said, we will keep the conversation going with you over the year in the different ways that we do it. And just as a quick reminder, not that I'm plugging, but I am, this discussion was led by the feedback you shared through the big co-op survey. It has been a fantastic channel for understanding your ideas and your ambitions as our member owners, and it is still open, so you have until Friday. If you haven't already done it, please do. It's an enormously useful tool for us. It's available on the app and on Join In, and it will be included in an email that we'll send out to you early next week. So we're determined to build on today's momentum, to add value to those key issues you have told us are important to us, our owners. Now, to share the outcome of the voting on the motions, you will see, yes, I'm just checking, you will see that all of the motions have passed. So thank you all for voting and participating. And just so you are aware, after the meeting there'll be a full analysis by our scrutineers on the number of votes cast, and that detail, together with the voting outcomes, will be posted on the website. This concludes our AGM for this year. I'm excited for what we can achieve together as all of us being part of our co-op. Please do complete the feedback form and let us know how today's meeting worked for you. The form can be accessed using this QR code, which is also posted around the room and is online. And if you don't like technology, there's a hard copy form at the back of the room. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for everybody online. I hope that's really worked for you. Please have a safe journey home and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you.